Greetings, greetings to all. We don't heard it all now. Kanye West, Nick Cannon. When kicking knowledge goes wrong, you might recognize this meme. The young generation might not know where this is coming from. It's from a very famous movie, and this is the part where one individual asks another one, "Are you trying to kick some knowledge?" But it wasn't a nice setting because he was robbing the dude. But that's a movie. Let me check that you can hear me first. Yes, you can. If you don't mind, hit that like button. Now, for those of you who are not aware, Kanye said publicly, it wasn't a private conversation, and apparently it was a speech made during his campaign. Apparently, he's campaigning to run for the presidency of the United States of America. So Kanye said that Harriet Tubman actually did not free the slaves, that she sent the slaves to work for some other white folks. Do any of you know about this? If someone is sent to work, if that person gets paid, then it's not slavery. If the person gets paid a low wage, then you can call it exploitation in a sense. But to say that she did not free the slave, that she did not free the slaves, let's read the entry for Harriet Tubman on the Encyclopedia Britannica. She was born Araminta Ross, circa 1820. Bear with me 1 second. Thank you for waiting. So, Harriet Tubman was born Araminta Ross, circa 1820, in Dorchester County, Maryland, U.S. She died on March 10, 1913, in Auburn, New York. American born woman who escaped from slavery in the South to become a leading abolitionist before the American Civil War. She led hundreds of bondsmen to freedom in the North along the route of the Underground Railroad, an elaborate secret network of safe houses organized for that purpose. Born a slave, Araminta Ross later adopted her mother's first name, Harriet. From early childhood, she worked variously as a maid, a nurse, a field hand, a cook, and a woodcutter. About 1844, she married John Tubman, a free black. In 1849, on the strength of rumors that she was about to be sold, Tubman fled to Philadelphia, leaving behind her husband, parents, and siblings. In December 1850, she made her way to Baltimore, Maryland, where whence she led her sister and two children to freedom. That journey was the first of some 19 increasingly dangerous forays into Maryland, in which, over the next decade, she conducted upward of 300 fugitive slaves along the Underground Railroad to Canada. By her extraordinary courage, ingenuity, persistence, and iron discipline, which she enforced upon her charges, Tubman became the railroad's most famous conductor and was known as the Moses of her people. It has been said that she never lost a fugitive she was leading to freedom. Quite an excellent track record. Not a soul lost. Rewards offered by slaveholders for Tubman's capture eventually totaled $40,000. Abolitionists, however, celebrated her courage. John Brown, who consulted her about his own plans to organize an anti slavery raid of a federal armory in Harper's Ferry, VA, now in West Virginia, referred to her as General Tubman. About 1858, she bought a small farm near Auburn, New York, where she placed her aged parents. She had bought them out of Maryland in June 1857, and herself lived thereafter. From 1862 to 1865, she served as a scout, as well as nurse and laundress for Union forces in South Carolina. For the Second Carolina Volunteers, under the command of Colonel James Montgomery, Tubman spied on Confederate territory. When she returned with information about the locations of warehouses and ammunition, Montgomery's troops were able to make carefully planned attacks. For her wartime service, Tubman was paid so little that she had to support herself by selling homemade baked goods. After the Civil War, Tubman settled in Auburn and began taking in orphans and the elderly, a practice that eventuated in the Harriet Tubman Home for Indigent Aged Negroes. The home later attracted the support of former abolitionist comrades and of the citizens of Auburn, and it continued in existence for some years after her death in the late 1860s. And again in the late 1890s, she applied for a federal pension for her Civil War services. Some 30 years after her service, a private bill providing for $20 monthly was passed by a Congress. That was Encyclopedia Britannica. Let me check if there are any comments before we go further. We have Servant of Yah who wrote Boys in the Hood. Yes. No, it's not Boys in the Hood, but it's among, if there's 5 top hood movies, for lack of better words, then it's in the top 5. And really, it might be the top 2. There are 2 hood movies that are the most known, and Boys in the Hood is one of them. So try again. Aaron Jacobs wrote, "We hear Hetepu Hotep, brother. Hotep sen. E.T." RP wrote, "Kanye is a product and prime example of racial showcasing confusion, a term created by Neely Fuller Jr. Some black get on and pledge their total allegiance to the dominant class." Servant of Yah wrote, "What? Is that for the guests of Boys in the Hood? That's not Boys in the Hood. That's not Boys in the Hood. Let me know, Servant of Yah. Try again. Dust yourself up and try again, like Aliyah said." Hatshepsut Ma'at Ray wrote, "Rahubat Zamar, greetings, Ma'at forever." So, Rahubat is a common greetings of Nubians. So, Servant of Yah, this is menace to society. I thought you knew already. Cain, portrayed by Tyrene Turner. So, Kanye is most likely going through some health issues, mental issues. It's nothing new. However, some people are already making excuses for his statement. Even if you like someone and that person makes a statement that is really far off, that is extremely inaccurate, then you have the right. It's not disrespectful. It's not an attack to say that you disagree. Not long ago, we had Nick Cannon who talked that black people being the true Hebrews and so on. So our celebrities going wild now. On another note, I saw some footage of a black lady vandalizing a Black Lives Matter sign or painting on the ground. Does anyone know what she stands for? If she's part of a group or what she was saying? I saw the footage, but there was no audio. Either there was no audio or I just did not have the volume up, but I think there was no audio. Oh, yes, I recall now. There was a music on top of it. So I did not have the original audio. That surprises me. For someone to disagree with the Black Lives Matter movement, or even if it's not the movement, but what it stands for, because many people are talking about Black Lives Matter and even wearing the shirt or having the signs that say Black Lives Matter, but they are not necessarily part of the actual movement. There's a distinction between the movement, those people who came with that ideal or idea or movement, for lack of a better word, and the people who just want justice for the severe police brutality that's been going on for so many years. Of course, we hear people say all lives matter. Some say white lives matter, but let's keep it real. Do all people get unjustifiably killed by the police? We had cases where people were not even suspect in the first place. We had cases where people called the police, and when the police arrived at their house, for some strange reason, one person ended up dying. One time, there was a family who called the police because their son, who had some mental issues, was misbehaving. They shot him, they killed him. A lot of people will not mess with the police until they die. Can we say that this happens to all people? Statistics could be done. So, what's going on with those celebrities? A lot of people are really listening and following the celebrities. And it's cool to appreciate people, to support people. But to follow people when they are not necessarily skilled or the statements are far off, that can lead to issues, that can lead to problems. Now, we have people who teach that Africans are living a jungle life and that black people are cursed because we rebelled against God and we didn't have kinky hair before. But after we rebelled against God, that's when we had kinky hair. That's the essence of ugliness. Broad nose, thick lips, and kinky hair is the essence of ugliness. We have people who say in writing in their own book that sending 360 slaves to Muslims is victory. That's when you have the leverage. I wonder what happens if you don't have the leverage. So we have all kinds of crazy claims. You have Christian apologists in the conscious community who want to use theological biblical writings in order to prove the existence of Jesus, while at the same time um, diminishing the impact or the reality of the Kemetic writings, writings from ancient Egypt. RP wrote, BLM doesn't apply to Kanye. He's rich and married to a white person. Of course, he's against it. Hatshepsut Ma'at Ray wrote, Nick said the right thing. We cannot live in fear any longer. That's interesting. We differ in opinion. So, do you think, or do you believe, or is your stance that black people are the true Hebrews? Let me know, Hatshepsut. Let me know. So, were the Canaanites black people as far as you're concerned? Around 1400 BC, 15 to 1300 BC? Is it your stance? Which is a popular stance amongst the so-called conscious community. They have made over decades a strong effort at blackening biblical characters. Now, Hatshepsut Ma'at wrote, yes, we are the original people on the planet. Now, I've heard that so many times. Asiatic black men say that all the time. That statement is loose, it's not precise. From 1500 BCE, that would be around the time period of Moses if he existed. And these issues of Hebrews, we could say that the main patriarchs of the Hebrews or the ancestor of the Hebrews is Abraham. If he existed, that was around 2000 BCE. So when they went into Canaan, according to the Abrahamic literature or biblical narrative, that was after the Exodus. So to say we are the original people on the planet, that might be 60 million years ago, this type of date I don't deal with. That's cool to say that. But I'm asking about a particular time period in a particular place. RP wrote, I don't believe it personally. Hatshepsut wrote, I know Buddha was black and they hide it. I mean, the original statues have burned to nuts. Okay. So, just for the record, just for the record, just so that you know, I will show you a little some. And it goes along with what Nick Canaan was saying. This video right here is called Black Semite's Shocking Revelation. What you're looking at, dear sister Hatshepsut Ma'at Ray, this is an artifact called the Standard of Ur, dated about 2600 to 2400 BCE. This is 4,000 years old. And we see the Sumerians, the black-headed ones. We even have the king there, and you can look at them, what they look like. But that's not all. It's not all. Right there, we are looking at some Asiatic tribute bearers in two regions. You can look at them closely. And if you might think that those are black people because they appear to have a tan, let's look at them in contrast with the ancient Egyptians. This book is called the Oxford Encyclopedia of Archaeology in the Near East. And here, let's look closely. We have a depiction here, but we're going to deal with a painting, representation with color. Page 411, just like the info, what's the 41-1? Here, we have those Canaanites, and those are the Egyptians. We can clearly see the difference in skin tone, and we can see their phenotype. They usually have that kind of hair and beard. Look at your Canaanites. And there are so many other depictions. So, no. Where is that thing? Okay, maybe like that is going to appear. There it is. Oh, hold on. Oh, what the heck? Okay, I know. Might do it like this. Like this. Like this. So that was just for the record. There are so many other depictions of those people from the Levant, the Near East, Sumer, Akkad, Mesopotamia, Sumeria. Aaron Jacobs. Oh, by the way, I always forget that. Here's a link. Link to join the discussion. Oh, it's not. Let me delete that. I cannot delete that. Link to speak with webcam or microphone. There's a link. Anyone wants to join the discussion. So, Aaron Jacobs wrote, their own scientists claim we are the only real human beings. RP wrote, now that I am inclined to believe. Aaron wrote, I agree, the other races are just mutations from the original man. Hatshepsut wrote, yes, some Persians will tell you their ancestors were black. Some, not all, will admit it. Well, when you say ancestors, what time period are you talking about? Because when it comes to the Persians as well, that video is called White Semites Black Awakening. And I show depictions of Persians, people from the Near East, Mesopotamia, Sumer, Akkad, the Levant, the Middle East. They were white, Caucasian, from about 2000 BC to more later times, up to 700 BC. Even in Syria, there are so many depictions in BC time. They have always been white Caucasian from 2000 BC, more or less, to more recent times. So if they were black 10,000 years ago, fine. People want to argue that, it's on them. When it comes to records, I don't think there's any that they can show us that will give us an indication of their physical trait or characteristics. But we do have depictions of them from the said period that I've mentioned. We can start from 2400 BCE, 2400 BCE, with the standard of Ur, where Abraham is said to be coming from. RP wrote, I think some black people are attached to the Semites because the Semites are protected people. Hatshepsut addressed Aaron, saying that she agrees. That is why they depend on our blood cells and tissues to live. And she also says that she agrees with Aaron's previous comment. Their own scientists claim we're the only real human beings. Is it not one or two that says that? This is not the consensus, is it? But what should we make out of all of this? What should we make out of all of these claims? Hmm? What is your take, brothers and sisters? How do you feel about that? Entertainers, athletes, celebrities who every now and then do some black talk and every now and then will say some real crazy stuff. Who are we supposed to listen to? And even amongst the conscious community, you have some people who will tell you that black means death. Africans are living a jungle life. Amongst the conscious community, you have people who will say F commit. Just like about a decade ago, someone said, throw commit in the garbage can, throw my out in the trash can, throw I'm in rather slave making God away. Same one who said, our own children are being kidnapped by ideologies other than Islam, gangs, Afrocentricity, and the so called culture of hip hop. Let me see if I can find that one because you might not believe me. I should have it somewhere. Okay. I'm gonna have to do some file transferring so you can hear it and you want to understand that you don't only have celebrities, artists, or entertainers that make weird claims. You also have so-called scholars, so-called doctors. Now, won't be long. hmm I'm looking for it so you can hear it from the horse's mouth. Oh no, no, hold on, and keep the comments going. And also, if you don't mind, hit that like button, brothers and sisters. How many likes do we have? 7 likes. It's better than nothing, but I think we can do better than this. Don't you think so, brothers and sisters? You will hear it, so you know I'm not making this up. You will know that. Haha. Found that one. So you will hear it, brothers and sisters. You will. Oh, hold on. I have to check the size though, because I'm limited in size. So I don't want to disappoint. Okay, it should be okay. And what is the length? What is the length? Let me see. What's the length? That's fine. So let me prepare that one so you can hear it. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. It won't be long, brothers and sisters. Okay, that's the title. Oh, my goodness. I have to convert the file. So I will go through the comments um, while the file is converting. It needs to be MP3 is WMV. So always when you want to show something to someone that you go through these things, but I will come up with a solution. What's the name of that thing again? Hold on. That's the one. Okay. So now the file is being converted. Let me go through the comments, brothers and sisters. Inspired One has joined us. Greetings to you. Hatshepsut wrote, "We can breed dogs, so why not human beings and different races? Let us use critical thinking skills. They have ligers in Atlanta, mix of tiger and lions." I don't know why that statement is made. RP wrote, "Confused people being given a microphone to further the confusion." Aaron wrote, "Why are these people in rulership? Why have they conquered so much land?" Servant of Yah wrote, "Division has been our downfall." South 12 wrote, "I don't think Mesopotamia, Standard of Ore, etc., should be considered the motherland of Semites. The term is mainly associated with Jews and Arabs of the Levant and Arabian Peninsula. No matter what term we use, whether it's Canaanites or Arabs, and that's why many times you hear me say, along the Levant, Sumer, Akkad, Mesopotamia, Sumer, Akkad, the Levant, the Near East, the Middle East. That's why I say all those things, because we're talking about some particular geographic location. So if someone wants to discard the term Semite, I can understand the logic in that. But I'm talking about the people who lived in all those areas. Lagash, Iran, or Persia, no matter how people want to call those areas. Servant of Yah, thank you for hitting that like button. Hatshepsut wrote, according to Dr. York and others, there are 9 different types of black people. We are not the same on the African continent. Example, Nigerian versus Ethiopian, Khoisan. Well, okay. To each his own. RP wrote, everyone watching, thumbs up. Yes, thumbs up. Hit that like button. Thank you, Hatshepsut, for hitting that button as well. Servant of Yah wrote, we do not understand our history, and many of us don't care to investigate. Keep the comments going. Let me see if the file. Okay, it's almost finished. It's 93% now. Hatshepsut wrote, they say if you want to hide something from a black man, put it in the book. We need to stop that curse. Which curse? Oh, of not reading. That's not all of us, just a saying. Sat 12 wrote, Nick Cannon said, we are the Semitic people. We are the true Hebrews. And if he's talking about the black Hebrew Israelite movement, he's talking about Deuteronomy 28:68. Well, he was talking about Hebrews, Semite people, Semitic people. He was talking about people from Palestine or Canaan or nowadays Israel. He's talking about the people originally, the original Hebrews or Jews. So that's the area of Canaan. Matt Forever wrote, and also they intend Egypt to mean bondage, and the link that is a prophecy about America. Return of the brother wrote, the people were black. Canaan is of Ham. That's what it says in the Bible. But we're dealing with history, not theology. Uh, what's my file? What the heck? Is this a joke? I will use another online converter because that one has just made me waste time. My goodness. At least it will be there for future broadcasting. I want it in MP4. Okay, convert now. Keep the comments going, brothers and sisters. Let me see how many likes we have. 10 likes only? Oh, it is what it is. And one dislike. It's all good. It's all good. Return of the Brother wrote, Canaanite redemption showed them as black. That is not theology. Egyptian religion is. Well, religion is theology indeed. So it doesn't have to be Egyptian. It can be Arab, it can be European, it can be American, it can be Chinese, it can be Japanese. Religion is theology. What is this Canaanite renditions you're talking about? You mentioned that Canaanite rendition shows them as black. Can you please show us? Hatshepsut wrote, next time please have the title match the content. Did not know we were talking about ancient Persians. We're talking about when kicking knowledge goes wrong. And every time I'm doing a live streaming, anything goes. All conversations are welcome. Um, so we go with the flow of the conversation. 47%, 48%. Hatshepsut is bouncing. Thank you. She would enjoy your show. I mean, when it comes to Kanye, we didn't have anybody saying that he was right and that they agree with him. So what else is it to talk about? Like I asked in the beginning, someone is aware of some evidence that Harriet Tubman sent slaves to work for some other white folks, then I would like to know about it. I'm not about to do a live stream for 2 hours saying, well, Kanye was wrong. Kanye lost his mind. I can't believe he said that. Kanye is not the only one. Kanye is not a PhD. Kanye is not a historian, but we have PhDs and historians who make claims that are even worse than what he said. Kanye didn't say that slavery is victory. Psalm 12 wrote, Deuteronomy shows that blacks of America fulfill the prophecy. Please check out that verse. They say Egypt there means bondage. It means America. Psalm 12, are you a Hebrew Israelite? Because you're asking me to check some theological writings, and you're tying that theological writing with some historical fact. I'm going to show you something, all right, brothers and sisters. So, Psalm 12, are you a Hebrew Israelite? Or are you just a Christian? Let us know. Let us know what you stand for. Let us know what your foundation is. So far, it appears to be the Bible, and to each his own. Psalm 12 wrote, no, just want you to see their main number one claim. Okay. Well, their claim is fine, but it's from the Bible, and I'm dealing with the history, so let me download this. Now let me upload this so I can let you get a flavor of what we are dealing with. Hey. So it's uploading. It shouldn't be long now. It shouldn't be long. Keep the comments going in the meantime, and your questions, whether you agree or disagree, feel free, brothers and sisters. We don't hurt it all now. We don't hurt it all. Maybe celebrities, athletes, and entertainers will take over the conscious community, and they will start kicking knowledge. What is the result going to be? What are we going to do? Oh, that one will be interesting as well. You have to hear it. You have to hear this one too. You have to hear this one too. So I think now it's probably ready. No, not yet. Won't be long. Won't be long. Let me download this one. Okay. You will hear it, brothers and sisters. You will hear a PhD. You will hear a scholar. Not Kanye. You will hear it, brothers and sisters. It's worth the wait. It's a matter of seconds now. It's currently being processed and uploaded on that live stream platform. So it should be any second now. You will hear something, all right. The son of the brother is asking, they say, we don't heard it all in France. Well, we have a French way of saying it. Psalm 12 is saying, I haven't researched it yet. I'm sorry. Yes, I haven't researched it yet. Is Kanye distorting some facts about Harriet Tubman, or was his comment completely out of the blue? If there's facts, then people can tell us where it lies. What is a shame is when someone is reaching and saying something real out there, and people are wondering, well, maybe there's some truth into that. That's how, for a good while, we have people dealing with metaphysics who've been saying the weirdest claims in the world, And some of our brothers and sisters who live on the moon have been trying to figure out if there was any facts about their claims, because we have some brothers and sisters who will look for facts. If you tell them about Mu, Lemuria, Atlantis, they will look for it. They will tell you about Pangea. They'll tell you, but back in the days, all the continents were together. There's this great civilization underwater, Atlantis. We don't heard it all, really. We have dudes talking about John the Baptist is real because he's confirmed by Josephus. We have some conscious community quotables. Flavius Josephus has confirmed the existence of John the Baptist. Isn't that something? Isn't that something? And that about a female dog. Oh my goodness. Okay. With my phone's connection, hopefully it will be quicker because it's been a while now. The video is not long, so let's give it a little boost. Oh, there it is. Listen to it, brothers. It just went up. That's how it is. Listen to these brothers and sisters. Thank you for waiting.
Our children are being kidnapped by ideology other than Islam, gangs, Afrocentricity, or the so-called culture of hip-hop. We're losing our children to all of these other ideologies because Islam is everything. What about those days when the proofs, when the science, when the math give us trouble? I didn't say give Islam trouble. Islam is mathematics. Mathematics is Islam. Islam will never have problem with facts.
That Adam, that black Adam, is God. That black Adam is Allah. So Abraham may or may not have existed. I don't know.
Now, you've heard it from the horse's mouth. That's the PhD talking. Our children are being kidnapped by ideologies other than Islam, gangs, Afrocentricity, and the so-called culture of hip-hop. That's the dude who was proudly posing with many rappers. Gangs, I can understand if he says that, but Afrocentricity. Listen to it again.
Our children are being kidnapped by ideology other than Islam, gangs, Afrocentricity, or the so-called culture of hip-hop.
So our children are being kidnapped by Afrocentricity. Now listen to this one now. I've referred to this one many times. Listen to it now.
If you want to get authentic,
come on, go ahead.
About blacks conquering blacks. Throw Maya in the trash can. Throw Ahmed Rock, the slave making God, away.
You've heard a PhD saying, throw Kemet in the garbage can. Throw Ma'at in the trash can. Throw Amen Ra, the slave making God, away. Is it also another case of when kicking knowledge goes wrong? I don't think he's suffering from mental issues. He's not an entertainer. He's a PhD. And he purposely made those comments publicly It was not taken out of context. That's what he said. He meant that. He put a great emphasis on that. So many people will be quick on jumping on Nick Cannon over the falsehood that he spoke, while the Asiatic black man will support him to the fullest, because what they do most of their days is to talk about Zionism while turning a blind eye on the slavery practiced by their cousins in the East. As a matter of fact, Farrakhan even once said, and it is filmed while he was on a radio broadcast, that there is no slavery in Sudan. He said that there was no slavery in Sudan. So the ginger weeds and all that, I guess that's propaganda. And Inspired One indeed wrote, Dr. Wesley believes milk is liquid gold. I've heard him saying that milk is liquid sunlight and milk is the food of the gods. So, besides Nick Cannon, many people will disagree with the statements that Kanye made and criticize Kanye for his statements. But what about these, for example? Is it legitimate or accepted when it comes from so called members of the conscious community? Or do you need to have a PhD to be able to say that milk is the food of the God, and for them to say that our children are being kidnapped by ideologies other than Islam? Or do you need to have a PhD in order to say, throw Kemet in the garbage can, throw my out in the trash can, throw I'm in rather slave making God away? That kind of statement gets you invited on radio broadcasts, and it was the case. And not only once, more than once. And those radio broadcasts were controlled by some so-called Kemetic people. You will never see the other way around. You will never see someone making statements similar towards Islam and Muslims will invite that person once, then twice, with all the honor, appreciation, and respect in the world. Inspired One wrote, Josephus authored two accounts of Roman conquest, one written in Greek and another in Aramaic. The Aramaic version was specific to his people, Jews, and the Greek version was for the Romans. All copies of the Aramaic versions were destroyed by the Romans. I wasn't aware of that claim. All right. We really don't hurt it all, brothers and sisters. Do you have any cases of kicking knowledge going wrong? Have you heard some claims about history? All kind of claim about history, black history, ancient history, even if it's not black. Some claims that you felt were really out there, that it was really reaching, really inaccurate, or even BS. Do you have any examples? Do you have any cases? Have you ever read or heard something, or have you ever seen something, if maybe it was a video? Now, there was one coming from a Moor. I have it somewhere in my archive, but if I tell you what it is, you will most likely not believe me. So I will refrain from saying so. I will refrain. I would just have to let you hear it. So 12 wrote, I wonder what Kanye might say about Malcolm X. Well, I know what Wesley Muhammad said about Malcolm X. He said that Malcolm X was bamboozled. Inspired One wrote, the Civil War was about states' rights. And going back to Malcolm X. Oh, you know what? This is what we're gonna do. This is what we're gonna do. I will look for it. Close this one. Um, I'll look for a little some. I'll look for a little some. Not this one. Keep the comments going in the meantime, and your questions if you have any. I want to share something. Um, where could it be? I have so many videos. I'm looking for better quality. Yeah, that's better. That's better. Yes. Hold on, not there. 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 MP4. Hold on. Okay. We'll have to download it first then. Bear with me. Bear with me. Let's do this real quick. We'll see how some people get down. Keep the comments going, brothers and sisters. So it's uploading. In the meantime, RP wrote, please don't let him say anything about Malcolm. Inspired one wrote, I'm still a little unclear regarding the Nubians, Syrians, and the other phenotype you are describing. Were they all different types of people of color, or was one supposed to be Caucasian? The Caucasian ones are most definitely the Syrio-Palestinians, or Canaanites, if one will, and the Libyans, I suspect so as well, even though they had that lock of braided hair. But that's not the only one, though. That's not the only depiction of Canaanites. I showed one earlier. You have some in the video entitled White Semites Black Awakening. You have some in the video entitled Black Semite Shocking Revelation. The titles seem similar. One is White Semites Black Awakening, and the other one is Black Semites Shocking Revelation. You're welcome, brother. Now, still converting. Asad 12 wrote in 2018, Kanye said slavery was a choice, but also said, if this was 148 years ago, I would have been more like Harriet or not. I'm not really 100% sure that he did say that slavery was a choice, because I've been looking for the actual footage of him saying that, but I didn't find it. So I suspect that maybe his words were twisted a little bit, even though it appears that he said something kind of foul or out there. But somebody might be able to share a link for me where I can hear him say that slavery was a choice. I'm not denying he said that. I'm just saying I did not hear it. I looked for it for a while and I got tired of not finding it quickly when the whole world was saying that he actually said that. So 12 wrote, this is a problem, what we listen to entertainers on politics. Listen to this, brothers and sisters.
Yeah, I love Elijah Muhammad enough that if you attack him, I would kill you. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And I'm not a killer, but neither are you. But if somebody attack what you love, each one of you in here would become a killer instantaneously. Am I lying? Mother, let somebody look like they're attacking your child. Here's a woman who fought a bear because the bear snatched her baby. And she ran the bear down, screaming until the bear dropped her baby. Love casts out fear. We don't give a damn about no white man law when you attack what we love. And frankly, it ain't none of your business. What have you got to say about it? Did you teach Malcolm? Did you make Malcolm? Did you clean up Malcolm? Did you put Malcolm out before the world? Was Malcolm your traitor or was he ours? And if we dealt with him like a nation deals with a traitor, what the hell business is it of yours? You just shut your mouth and stay out of it. Because in the future, we're going to become a nation. And the nation got to be able to deal with traitors and cutthroats and turncoats. The white man deals with his. The Jews deal.
All right. I don't heard enough. I don't heard enough. Now that some of you have heard. There's another one I'm sure you haven't heard. Those public statements, man. So you disagree with someone, you criticize someone, and when you get shot in front of your wife and children, someone will come up and say, "What the hell business is it of yours?" You just shut up and stay out of it. Is that being on code, brothers and sisters? Is that being on code? Keep the comments going. I will go through them. There's one more thing I want to check. That's the one. Now, let me just. Keep the comments going, brothers and sisters. Just about to check something. Just about to check something. So let me go to the comments now. Shadi habari gani ndugu? Karibu. He wrote Kanye has lost his damn mind. Inspired One wrote, paraphrasing, he said, the slaves outnumbered the masters yet remained in bondage, thus they chose to stay enslaved. Other people summarize his statement as saying slaves chose to stay slaves and chose. And you know, there was someone in the Pan-African rapist and pedophile world, in the French Pan-African rapist and pedophile world, who's also made some statement regarding slavery time, and he said you are outnumbering those slave masters. Couldn't you just take the whip and strangle them with it? It's very easy to talk bad talk hundreds of years after slavery. But when he was on and popping, I would have loved to see those people put in work. So if that's what Kanye said, then I understand why they will put that headline, slavery was a choice. John of the brother wrote, Farrakhan is a master mason. That is why he was so bold. Oh, Satwa shared that Kanye video. Let me have a look. But apparently he never said a sentence such as slavery was a choice. Apparently that's what the media put forth. Don't forget to hit that like button, brothers and sisters. I'm just listening to that Kanye West clip. So Kanye said, you hear about slavery for 400 years? For 400 years? That sounds like a choice. Like, you were there for 400 years and that's all of y'all? And then the rest, I can just skip over. The backlash was severe. Very easy when you're no longer there. Because decades later, centuries later, some people might say, well, you had all this police brutality and it's all of y'all. That sounds like a choice. It wouldn't be fair. But he got the backlash because of that. Aaron is greeting you, sis. Michael Nowak wrote, I know this man does not talk this black stuff while he has a white baby. Colorism. She's not right. She's not white. She's not white. She's very light skinned. She's not white. Colorism. As she grows, you will see her features. Now, Inspired One wrote Troll Alert. Shaka. Aaron Jacobs wrote, I've done enough research to know the white man made up religion of Islam, and yes, I agree. Facebook is a high-ranking Freemason. I'm sorry, Farrah Cook is a high-ranking Freemason. I'm just reading the statements. Aaron Jacobs wrote, lol, a white baby. Inspired One wrote, I suspect Michael Nowak is a troll. I do not appreciate his comments. I don't appreciate it either, but he was his attempt at throwing me off guard. He thought that he had the great sentence that would just destabilize me, but it makes me laugh more than anything. Shadi Afro wrote, the problem is the masses look up to celebrities as some kind of god. Oh, they're really looking up to celebrities. Indeed, they are. But then again, do they have many scholars that they can listen to, that they can get in contact with, that they can get in touch with if they have questions to ask? Besides Abrahamic people who will tell you those narratives, such as black people are disfigured because they rebelled against God and we didn't have kinky hair, and the broad nose, thick lips, and kinky hair is the essence of ugliness, or the curse of Ham. We all know the curse of Ham or curse of Canaan. So besides the Abrahamic people who teach on both sides of the Abrahamic major spectrum, Christianity and Islam, that black people are cursed, do they have people that they can talk to get some enlightenment, to learn about history? Do they really? People who will not talk smack. And these elders, like when they're gone, like Griff did with John Henrik Clarke. People who will not plagiarize, like many people do in the so-called conscious community. I don't know. Sat 12 wrote, I'm American, don't know much about it. What is your opinion on violence in Sweden that gets blamed on Somalis and other immigrants. I wasn't aware of that, but usually violence is blamed on minorities. So maybe there is indeed some violence. I don't know. I'm really not aware of that. I'm really not aware of that. But sometimes you have some Somalis who get busy. Somalia is no joke. There hasn't been a stable government for a very long time. Very often, Mogadishu or Somalia at large was referred to as one of the most dangerous places in the world. So they come from a war-like environment. So sometimes some of them get busy. They don't play that stuff. They don't have time for that. Sometimes in refugee camps, where you have people of many different nationalities, you hear about people getting murked. Because some people come from areas where it was war. And some of them are quick to murk. They murk someone with a quickness. Inspired one wrote, "No people they can't talk to because of self-importance." Because you have to wonder, really, besides those Abrahamic people who teach that black people are cursed, can they really talk to people who will tell them facts and truth? People who will not teach them that John the Baptist is real because he was confirmed by Flavius Josephus, another kind of mess. That some conscious community members or affiliated, some conscious community members or affiliate do say, who can they turn to for knowledge? Can they learn about historical facts and records and reference? Can they learn about pre-colonial Africa? Can they learn that before the transatlantic slave trade, there was the sub-Saharan slave trade that started before and lasted longer, and in some parts of the world is still going on? Can they learn about an empire that lasted for at least 3,000 years and that was fully functional, such as Kemet, without some conscious community members disrespecting Kemetic people, using terms such as Egyptomaniacs and Hotep N-words? Can they? How will they feel if they see that online it was a trend for many years to say, oh, that's just a Hotep N-word? Because those people use that to vilify Kemetic people, people who are influenced by Kemet, people who appreciate Kemet. Could it be someone's fault? Whose fault could it be? Who are the fence riders? Who allowed those people to say those things? Who allowed a PhD to say, throw Kemet in the garbage can, throw my out in the trash can, throw Amin Ra the slave making go away?
Throw Kemet in the garbage. If you want to get authentic
Come on, go ahead.
about blacks conquering blacks, throw Maya in the trash can, throw Amin Ra, the slave making God, away.
And you can hear the people clapping. You can hear the people clapping. Michael Noah wrote, Canaanites and original Semites are much darker than you and your family. No offense. Well, show and prove, Michael Noah. Show and prove. Psalm 12 wrote, and also for the record regarding that statement, someone having dark skin does not necessarily mean that he is of black African descent. That's just for the record. Psalm 12 wrote, what is your opinion on this? I saw some people trying to claim white features on this famous Akhenaten statuette. Well, let me check the link. Let me go on the link. Let me check the link. Oh, there's a couple of links now. So first one, oh, well, I'm not surprised that they will claim white feature on this one. Let me see the other one. Well, they are both the same. They are both the same. But we have other depictions of Akhenaten. Is it not moving? Is it stuck? Oh, it's because I paused it, didn't I? Oh, yes, I paused it. We have others. Now, if I do a quick search, I don't know if I will find one on my channel. But I should do. Well, I should have some. I'm not sure. Oh, you know what? I think I have some from the museums that I've been to recently, but I've not uploaded everything yet. Maybe it's one. That's the Ashmolean Museum in Oxford, England. Let me scroll through. That's Nefertiti. I don't think we see Akhenaten in that one. Nefertiti, Ashmolean Museum. Okay, let me check that video about the Amarna Revolution. We have writings, but we don't have depictions. So, but I think if it's not Akhenaten, then it will be Tutankhamun. But those videos will be there soon. You have noticed that I am uploading about one a day at least. So we will see. Now, Psalm 12 wrote, I don't know if it's really him, but Michael Nowak is Brother Polite's given name. I'm aware of that, but I really don't think that is him. It's just someone using his name, you know. And so, hold on. Brothers and sisters, listen to this. Listen to this.
Malcolm didn't know what he was playing with. No, he didn't. He didn't know what he was playing with. You don't jump up against a divine messenger of God like he did. He asked to die. He said, what if we did? Have you ever seen a leader scandalized like Malcolm scandalized Muhammad? Have you ever heard of anything like that? Don't you know if you scandalize a man who's loved and honored by the people, what are you asking for? You're asking for death. And he got what he asked for. And those who killed him, they weren't sneaking behind no damn counter. They came in the place where the man was preaching and killed him in front of his own followers. That's fearless men. Punk, you don't have no reason. Nothing about him while he was alive and no less about him now that he's dead. Malcolm's momentum carried him to his death.
So that was Farrakhan talking about Malcolm X killers, the killers of Malcolm X, and it sounded like he was praising them. He said that they were fearless. They were fearless. But anyway, that was just for the record. That I know a lot of people are not aware of. The previous clip when he said, frankly, it ain't none of your business. You just shut up and stay out of it. And so on. And if we dealt with him like a nation deals with a traitor, on that audio, you heard Farrakhan saying when some people are asking, did you Muslims kill him? And the messenger said, well, what if we did? That's being on code, according to Pan-Africans in the conscious community. That's being on code. So moving right along, the Inspired One wrote, even Rabbi today acknowledged that Josephus' credibility is problematic. Yes, he is the major source of Jewish and Christian thoughts. Josephus betrayed his own Jewish people to carry favor with the Romans. Psalm 12 says that it's buffering. Is it still buffering? How is the connection? Oh, let me listen to it myself. So I'll find out if it's me. Let's see. How is it now? 1 2 1 2. Let's see. Well, it sounds okay. 1 2 1 2. Sounds okay on my end, so it might be your connection, brother. How many likes do we have? 13 likes only, and 2 dislikes. That's fine. That's fine. Inspired One road connection is good, but buffering some. So now, brothers and sisters, we've been on for an hour and a half, so let's do a last call by sending the invite link. See if someone wants to add his or her 2 cents. Feel free if you want to. The link is in the chat. I feel like I stated my piece. So 12 said that it is good now. I feel like I stated my piece. We have to wonder, who can the younger generation listen to besides those who teach that black people are cursed, that the black African phenotype is the essence of ugliness, that Africans are living a jungle life, that black means death? Who can they have access to in order to learn some history, some facts about records, about timeline, about culture? Besides people who said, throw Kemet in the garbage can, throw him out in the trash can, throw Amin rather slave, making God away. When we listen to all those people who are Pan-Africans and the conscious community at large, it sounds like the best thing ever is to be Abrahamic. Oh, Inspired One has joined us.
How are you?
Brother, how are you?
Good. Hey, you know, Anthony Browder has this poster. Are you familiar with it? Where he shows civilization starting near Kemet all the way up to the present. Are you familiar with that?
I did not know that this was Anthony Browder's, unless there's another one who has that poster. But
I guess where I was going is, and I have it coming. I did buy it, so I'm having it delivered. But don't you think that that would help explain Islam, Christianity, and Judaism if people could see pictorially where each one of them fits from the different BC eras and AD eras. So you could say, do you see where Islam starts? Do you see where Judaism starts? So everything before and everything after is either a copy or the original, or you're making a copy of the original, right? You see what I'm saying? So if a Muslim makes a statement, you could say, okay, brother, you believe that, but let me show you what was there before you. So it's possible that this was a copy of something from Kemet, because that was the birthplace of civilization, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. That's the birthplace. So isn't it possible that something was copied in Kemet and was distorted and over the years transformed into what people are following today?
Well, what you said is very interesting, and I had a quick look at the poster, and I was thinking about another poster. I had a quick glance. He has a small version for $50
Yes,
and
that's
a
it.
large version for $100. But there's another poster that is quite popular on social media, because quite regularly it pops up in my feed, and it's someone else who does it. But when it comes to those Abrahamic belief system, what those people are trying to do, the Abrahamic believers, they are trying to push back their religions. For example, Wesley Muhammad, when he had a debate with Natural Tahuri, he put up some records with mentions of the Canaanite deity El, or to be precise, he was spelled Il with the letter I and the letter L. That's the same as El. Now, El, Elohim, Elo, for those who know a little bit of those terms. And he said we have a mention of Allah before Osar. He showed the depiction, which is allegedly the oldest mention of Osar, or record with the name Osar. And he said here, before Osar, we have the name Allah. And what is funny is that on the screen, it doesn't even say Allah.
Right.
Okay, one moment, please. Hold on. Hold on. Okay, so it doesn't even say Allah. It says Il or El.
Right.
And that's crazy to me. And he might not be the only one doing that. He might not. But I find it very amusing. His deity is Allah. Allah being the contraction of Al and La, literally meaning the God. And since he cannot find any record, any mention of that deity in remote time, then he goes and pick the Canaanite supreme deity or major deity El. So they will always have new tricks under their sleeves.
Well, won't it? And like I said, I know Anthony Browder is doing that dig of the 25th dynasty, right? So when he talks about the pyramid text, isn't he basically saying people from Kemet did not write things down in books and papyrus? They wrote it on stone on walls, right?
I'm sorry, come again, please, regarding the pyramid text.
So when we talk about the pyramid text, we're talking about the history of Kemet is written on pyramid walls. They're etched in the walls, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it would think that if someone tried to create a version that was counter to that, wouldn't they have to be able to point to it on the pyramid text? Like, here's where it comes before Osar or Aset or Heru, right? And I'm not aware of anyone that's found pyramid texts that can back up their claims. So if he's saying that Allah came before Osar, I'll accept it. Show me on the pyramid text. Show me where the hieroglyphics say that, and then I will defer to it.
Well, that's not something that we will expect to find. We will not expect to find on the pyramid text any mention that it was there before Allah. But the main thing is that whenever someone makes a claim, then you just have to substantiate it. So he's trying to claim Allah so far back. but he never showed Allah. He showed El or Il, the Canaanite deity. It's as
Right.
simple as that. It's as simple as that. You know.
But I think you got emotions involved too, and people who there's a term that's being used a lot. Have you heard of the term cognitive dissonance?
I've heard that. Yes.
It's like if I accept what you're saying, then I have to reject everything that I've been taught, everything that I was grown to believe, even if what you say is true. I can't accept it as truth because it would invalidate who I am as a person. So a lot of people who are Muslim that believe in the honorable, if they were to start accepting the pyramid texts and Asar, Aset, Peru, you're basically telling them that my religion came afterwards. You're telling me that my people, if I'm a Muslim, you're telling me that I sprang from Kemet, and I reject that, right? Because then that would mean that everything that I believe, the honorable Muhammad, things that. So I don't think emotionally, if a person is damaged, and for a lot of people, I respect this. Islam and the Black Muslim has been a lifesaver for a lot of wayward men who are in prison, people who really have turned their lives around. They're on drugs, and the honorable Muhammad or that gentleman, he's
Elijah
been a
Muhammad.
lifesaver. He's been a lifesaver. He saved their lives. So here comes you, Shaka, right? You haven't saved anybody's lives that we're aware of, right? And they've gotten guys out of prison, turned their lives around. They've been hooked on drugs. And then you're telling them something that goes against the man who brought me out of prison. So can't you see why they would be opposed to anything you say?
That's one of the reasons. Now, their religion doesn't have to come out of Kemet, but indeed, there's an issue of timeline. Now, just for the record, I wouldn't say that they got anybody out of prison. They probably kept people out of prison, but I don't think they
You know
got
what I
people
mean.
out of prison.
Yeah.
But yes, I know what you mean. And
Yeah.
for some other people, he was Christianity or meditation or yoga or
Yeah.
atheism or sport or weightlifting, to each his own.
Yeah.
But the thing is that people don't have to accept the pyramid text. They don't have to embrace it. But when it comes to facts, if we deny the facts, if we deny chronology, then we have a problem.
Right.
And Wesley Muhammad, for example, by trying to show Allah before Osar, he's denying chronology. At least as far as the data allows us to say. If there was a record that mentions Allah before Osar, or even if it's not before Osar, but if it's like, let's say, I don't know, 1500 BC, he would have gladly showed us.
Right.
But that is missing. That type of record is lacking.
Well, I think the thing that Wesley has in his favor is he's very articulate. He has a very deliberate delivery in his speech pattern.
He's boring as hell.
Well,
He's just boring as hell. I mean,
it sounds very scholarly, right? It sounds, because he doesn't grin, he doesn't smile.
The vocabulary, the vocabulary, and I'm sorry to kind of cut you off, but the Nation of Islam members, they have that way of talking. They have that way of talking, like Eric Muhammad does, and really putting emphasis on words. I mean, anybody could do that, really. I mean, I could speak like that just to let everybody understand that I really mean what I say. Do you, brothers and sisters? I want you to listen to me good now. I mean, everybody get that's theatrics. That's theatrics.
I'm gonna push back. The thing that people are the most fearful of is speaking in public. No joke. Most people would rather go into a burning building than speak in front of a group of thousands of people. What I'm saying is, there are very few
it's not up to everyone. Yes,
who are articulate that can deliver a message to a large mass in a consistent way, even if what they say is misguided.
It's true. I agree.
That's it. He's
not
got
everybody can do
style.
it.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
It's effective.
I wouldn't say that, but he can. Indeed, I mean, he has a PhD. in teaching at the university, and it is what it is. And he has, I mean, it's not difficult when you have a doctrine that many people adhere to, because when you have many people who adhere to your doctrine, it's just like the pastors. He just has to quote the writing from the theology, and the people will do nothing but agree. And many times they will finish the sentence because they know exactly what you're talking about.
But here's the other thing. Let me tell you why I get the Nation of Islam. When a lot of brothers are in prison, there's a very segregated caste system in prison. The white Aryans, the Latino gangs, the Nation of Islam brothers, and the gangs. And sure enough, a lot of guys, when they get in prison, they have to make a choice. And for a lot of them, they choose those brothers from the Nation of Islam. They get empowered, they start reading a lot, and they become very knowledgeable. That's all they do. And so when they get out, you can't help but admire a religion that saved you while you were in prison.
Well, save, that's a strong word to me.
I mean, that's how a lot of them feel.
Maybe they got protection. That's how they feel fine. But once again, for others, it was Christianity. For others, it was weightlifting. For others, it was gang as well.
Right.
Because some people see gangs as strictly a group of criminals. Other people see it as a family.
Exactly.
Gangs are deep in prison.
Yep.
If you are a member of a gang, then to some extent, you will get some protection, but in return, you will have to put in work.
And
that's the other side of it.
Perfect segue. I was raised Roman Catholic, and that is the biggest gang that was ever built.
And brother, the thing is that, let's say one brother goes to prison and he meets NOI members and he becomes a follower of the teachings of Elijah Muhammad. That's good for him if he loves it, and if he does good, if he doesn't hurt people, that's a good thing. But that does not give him the right, or let's say that is not a reason to invalidate history. That is not a reason to vilify Kemet.
Well,
like Wesley Muhammad did,
I know people who in Bible study have never heard of the city of Kemet, but they are followers of Christianity. And they pay 10% of their income every month. And they help the pastor get a $60 million airplane.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't know what to say about that.
It's numbers. They are numerous. You see, the Nation of Islam members, they have this advantage of riding the fence. When they're amongst themselves, is that black Islam, that black talk. When they're among Orthodox Muslim, yeah, brother, it's the Sunnah. We're all in the same, it's the Ummah, sorry. It's the Ummah. We're all in the same. We're all Muslim brothers and stuff like that. So, and besides, I mean, if people want to find reasons why it was successful, Malcolm X is one of the greatest tools for the success of the Nation of Islam. Then Muhammad Ali was a very key asset.
That's it.
Because he was the champion of the world, and he was outspoken, and he was funny. He was, yes. And he refused to go to war, and many people admired that. He was stripped of his title, but later on, he got his title back.
Yep.
Now, besides that, what a lot of people don't know is that the Nation of Islam received millions of dollars from Gaddafi, from Libya. So with millions of dollars back in the 70s, you can do a whole lot. You can do a mighty lot. And that was in the 70s. And later on, they received further millions of dollars. I made a video about that. The Nation of Islam themselves say that on their own website. If I'm not mistaken, it was on the final call. But people can scroll through my video. So,
can you see this?
Yes. Muhammad Ali, world champ, 1965.
He gave it to me. I walked up to him in 1965 as a child in Louisville, Kentucky, and my mom and my uncle knew he was coming out of a back alley in a mosque, and they pushed me out the car, and they gave me the paper and pencil, and I gave it to him. He signed it, didn't say one word to me, and just kept walking. I still got it.
That's so beautiful, brother.
Yeah,
That's collectible. It must be worth so much.
yeah. I
It
mean,
must be
I
so
got
much.
it physically, so it's one of those things where it's not a copy. I
Yes,
remember
it's
as
not
a
copy.
child getting it, so he was a
Mm.
hero, definitely.
Oh yes, oh
Yeah,
yes. So, but yes, some people will be drinking and doing foul stuff, and then they will uh, give their life to the Lord, and it might be Christianity, or for some it might be Judaism, so some it might be Buddhism or Hinduism. But yet, when it comes to the historical discourse, to history, if they want to push their belief system so far back, so be it. But can they show and prove? That's the thing. Another thing as well, it might have worked for you. You were in jail, you had protection, you were drinking and you're no longer drinking. You're a better man, good for you. But that does not erase 1400 years of slavery. And furthermore, let's say I get into Hinduism. It would not be fair for me to say, well, Hinduism, that's a black man's religion. Black people started that thing, and that's what they are doing. It worked
yeah.
for you, yes, but don't push it. Don't reach and try to say
Well,
that Islam is a black man's religion. Even their prophet, he's described as a white man in their literature, notably Sahih Bukhari, and we even have mention of the black slaves of Prophet Muhammad. So
well, I think
that's my thing.
it's
Yes,
emotional. It's emotional, and you know that there are
yes.
wars fought over this. And the thing is, uh, there are literalists. You know, people who read words literally, and that's what you're up against. Because I was talking to a gentleman, and we were talking about the Bible, and he said, "Now you know that God created woman from the rib of Adam." And so at first I thought he was talking like in parables or stories or allegories. And he said, no, 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 no. That's how woman was created. If you look to your right side, you'll see that there's a little space where your rib is. That's where God took the rib from Adam and created woman. And I thought he was joking at first, and then I realized he's serious. He literally believes that woman was created from the rib from a man named Adam. So, I mean, how is that possible? But he's a smart guy. He's smart,
That's
and he
belief.
believes that.
That's belief. I mean, James Cameron is smart as well. He has produced many successful movies. He has to be intelligent to have achieved all of that during his life. But his documentary, I can't remember if it's called Exodus Decoded. I don't know if any have seen it, but
I
it's
haven't.
full of hypotheses, and it even becomes humoristic to me. But I guess it was kind of a flop. I guess it was kind of a flop, and it's not hard to understand why. But you see, for some people to believe literally in their religious writing, that's one thing. But if you take the NOR, for example, now they will believe in the Quran. They will believe that the Quran is the word of God. But they also have those teachings of Elijah Muhammad, and many of them just do not match with the Quran.
Right,
So those people have double allegiance at least, because there's also the Freemasonry.
right.
Elijah Muhammad was a Mason.
Yep,
Khalid Muhammad was a Mason.
yep,
Farkan haven't said that he is, but he received Masonic titles, including the Master Mason title.
yep, yep,
So, in the Quran, it says in chapter 1112 that Allah is not begotten and he begets not. He begets not, nor is he begotten. But the nation of Islam teaches that Allah came in the person of Prophet Muhammad, and we are told about the name of his father and his mother. So that alone is a huge contradiction. That's what Muslims call shirk. So they are not even literalists in that aspect. They are reaching and try to hold on to everything and anything at the same time. For example, it went as far that same guy, Wesley Muhammad, who said, "Talking in the garbage can, throw my out in the trash can, throw." I mean, rather say making God away, like I've shown earlier. If people haven't seen that, then they can go back when the live stream will be published. He talked about some Attic Islam. Now he stopped. Now he's more focused on Scientology and Dianetics that he embraced.
mm,
He said publicly that he supports Dianetic, but at one point he was talking about Ma'atic Islam. And he
mm.
even went as far, one day he wrote, or we need some Buddhism in our Islam. And that's funny because Elijah Muhammad didn't have positive things to say about Buddhism, but I will leave it there.
Well, I think most people do not think critically and deeply. And because of our short attention span, we like sound bites and cute phrases. And that to me probably explains a lot of it, because I don't think people want to go too deep because it makes their head hurt. It's just too much to try to analyze. And so it's easier just to kind of sit back, open up your head, and let people pour knowledge into you versus do the work, do the research, read the books, right? And come to your own conclusions. Don't let somebody, I mean, even listening to you, I go back and I research. When you say something, I go back and I do my own research and say, okay, does this line up to what I'm thinking? I'm not saying that you're going to be misleading us, but I don't look to
Oh
you as
yes,
the final authority. I said, let's back this up with some research.
yes.
Let's
It's
cross check.
always good to double check.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It's good to cross check, double check. And
Yeah.
I wish that our people indeed will do some research, because many times we see Christians are people who are just believers and who don't do research. But there are a fair bit of Christians. Now, maybe most of them are the people who aspire to be pastors and who go through theology school, but a fair bit of them, there might be a minority, but a fair bit of them do study, and they might not want to admit that there are no records for Jesus, but at least they will tell you, well, we have search record from Tacitus, we have search record from Flavius Josephus. So they believe in whatever the Bible says, but historically they are trying to validate their biblical narrative, and ultimately they are able to state some facts about data available, about records, and so on. But when it comes to us, sometimes, and I'm always afraid to sound condescending or to sound holier than thou, but many times I've said that with the conscious community, the level is low. The level
Yeah.
is low. The level
Well,
is low.
can I help you out? If you have a lot of self-hatred and you don't know where you are and you don't know where you come from, it makes you more susceptible to all manner of theories and Illuminati and conspiracy theories, because you know just enough. And I'll use Nick Cannon as a perfect example. Nick Cannon is a smart guy, but he's ignorant. And he went down a path where he's partly true. And you can point out there are black Hebrews,
I'd
but
say he's misguided
he's
rather than
misguided,
ignorant, but I get your
but he's
point.
a smart guy. He's a smart guy, but he really was going down a path that he really should have had more authoritative, maybe more educational scholars to back him up of where he was talking about, because there was a grain of truth to what he was saying, but he was conflating things and crisscrossing and overlapping and drawing hypotheses that even scholars today are questioning how melanin impacts the body, right? We still don't know 100% how melanin impacts your central nervous system, right? And your brain function. And I think he was going out on a limb, drawing a conclusion that I've not heard the scientific community express it quite that way. I've heard them say things like, our ability to absorb vitamin D, right, versus people of paler skin, because vitamin D, when it's absorbed in your skin, it's harder to get through darker pigmentations. So we do have, I think this is documented, there is documentation that it's harder for us to absorb vitamin D than someone that is a lighter skin people. Sunburn easier, not that we can't sunburn, but you're more susceptible to skin cancer because of the lack of melanin. So that's
But
scientific.
that's true. That
Yeah.
yes, that's true.
So
But with the vitamin D, well,
I've heard some things about us struggling to absorb it from the sun because of dark pigmentation. Now maybe that one needs to be
well, I,
researched
I
more.
don't I don't know about that. Now I'm not a scientist. I'm not a biologist. I
Yeah.
don't know about that, and I doubt that, because when it comes to vitamin D, we haven't got an issue, because people with light skin, pale skin, they actually need vitamin D, particularly when they are in areas that are not tropical or where there isn't
Right.
enough sunlight.
Right.
And as an interpreter, I've went many times to translate at doctors' offices, and the doctors usually prescribe vitamin D to the children who are pale skin or white skin, but
Okay.
they rarely do that with black
African
children
black
because there's
children.
no
Okay.
need for that. Yes, there's no
Gotcha.
need for that. But
Okay.
when it comes to the melanin, I don't expect the medical or scientist community to say things that will sound like black skinned people have an advantage.
Right.
It will be difficult for them to say things like that. So on that aspect, I don't fault him,
Yeah.
even though some people are, to my in my opinion, exaggerating
Right.
the benefits of melanin. Some people, I think, are doing that. But my main thing is that Hebrew stuff, the true Hebrews and stuff like that, the black Jews. That's the best. That was the
Yeah.
biggest thing. When I say falsehood, for the record, for those who wonder, when I wrote that title that Nick Cannon was fired by CBS Viacom over black Semites falsehood, that's the main thing. That's the
I say.
him claiming that black people are Jews or true Hebrews and stuff like that. And once again, if you say that we are the true Hebrews, then it means that the other ones are fake ones. So
Right.
it's no
Right.
surprise that they will take issues with that statement.
Well, the other thing is, and this one is more mind-boggling if you think about it. When you think about the history of the Bible, why? And let me ask you this, Chaka: why would your oppressor or the person that's enslaving you? Why would he give you a book that would empower you to make
Mm.
you better, to get you in touch with yourself, so that you can transgress your current circumstances and reach a better life? Unless the Bible was used as a control, as a tool for submission. That's the one that I think a lot of people miss. Why would my captors, why would the people who decimated my communities now hand me a book and say, now read this book, it's going to make you empowered? That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense.
And
And yet we're
indeed,
still following it.
yes, even though we have at least 400, more or
Versions,
less,
versions of the Bible, right?
400 years, no, not
Oh,
the version
400
of the
years.
Bible, years of
Oh,
documented slavery.
right.
And sadly, we have some people still of the Islamic persuasions, the Moors. We have many who dare to say slavery didn't happen. And some will
Mm,
make statements such as show us the boats that were used to take the Africans to the Americas. Well,
yeah.
we can ask them, show us the boat that took the Europeans to the Americas.
Right.
I mean, maybe if people want to argue that the numbers of slaves sent to the Americas and the islands, the Caribbean islands, maybe if they want to say that it was exaggerated, that's one thing that they could argue. The discussion could be there, but some of them, some Moors, outright say that slavery didn't happen, that we were already there, that we've been here.
Mm,
And sadly, just like some black people are trying so hard to put some black folks in the areas of the patriarchs of the Abrahamic belief system, notably the Jews, Hebrews, Canaanites, whatever they want to call them,
yeah.
we have black people who show some pictures of Native Americans, and some of them having tan or dark skin, and they say, here it is, that's us.
Black
And
Hebrews.
I think it's real sad.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, once again, I think we suffer from a condition called, have you heard it before? PTSD, post traumatic slave disorder
Post traumatic slave syndrome.
syndrome.
Disorder, yes,
And,
sorry.
and I don't think we've had a chance to grieve. I don't think as a people, you know how it is when you go to a therapist and he lets you, or her lets you, get it out. Tell me, we went from slavery to you're free, but we never had a chance to work out our issues. And I think we've been left to our own devices. And that's where you get some of these kind of left, right, weird kind of combinations. It's all, to me, it's a cry for help to say, I'm somebody. I was somebody, and my people were kings and queens, and we're great people. And it's all kind of a self positive message to make us feel better about ourselves, despite the fact that unfortunately we're not in a very good place right now. And so, what better way to make me feel better than to say I was the first Jew, right? We were the original, and so it's part of positive thinking, I guess. Self positive thinking.
But if it was only them, feeling the need to say my people are great and so on. That's fine. But we know the deal, particularly with the Moors. They want to claim so many cultures except Africa. They
Yeah.
go the extra mile to
Right.
say that they are not from Africa. They will
Right.
be from South Africa, South America, North
Right.
America,
Yeah.
Morocco. That's the exception in Africa. Mu, Lemuria, Atlantis, but not Africa.
Well,
And
aren't
it's real sad.
Egyptians? Don't Egyptians? Some Egyptians try to claim Egypt is part of Asia or
Well,
Arabia. Arabia. Arabia.
well, for example, Wesley Muhammad in his book Black Arabia, he claims that Taneta, Ta meaning land, and Neta, she wants to join the conversation. Taneta, Ta meaning land, and Neta meaning God or the divine. So the land of the God, let's say, that it was part of Kemet and part of Arabia. So that's how far they go. And he, Taneta or Punt, he claims that this is part of Arabia as well. And I have quoted several scholars who say that Punt is the area around Somalia and Eritrea. But then again, we always have those hypotheses. He argues that the fauna and the flora is the same in Arabia than in Egypt and so on. I mean, they will give their arguments, but
Yeah.
besides that, people claiming that Egypt is in the Middle East. I don't know if they say it outright like that, but many people feel
Yeah.
that way. They will see Egypt as being part of the Maghreb, even though it is
Yeah.
not, and they will see it as part of the Middle East, even though it is not. It is physically in Africa. But then sadly, we can lament of people making that claim that Egypt will be in the Middle East.
Mm.
But we have well, then again, Wesley Muhammad and others who say that Arabia is part of Africa. They say Arabia is Northeast Africa. That's what they say. And I often said, well, then can someone say that Spain is Northwest Africa?
Right.
You know?
Yeah. That's a hard one. Well, it's like if you try to, and I'm very selective in the people who I share this information with because I want them to do their own research. But even rabbis, when they refer to Josephus, they make little side. I mean, I've listened to a lot of rabbis online that are very learned people, and they make very disparaging comments about. Unfortunately, we have to go by what Josephus said, even though it's problematic. It's almost like a concession that it's all we got. I don't like using it, but this is what he said. And so that to me is a shaky foundation in the beginning. So you're basically admitting that the person that you're referencing was a problematic figure that you don't feel comfortable with, but that's all we got. I
But
mean,
when you don't have anything, you have to go with something. I mean, you, it's just,
but
you know,
it's
it's
been
like,
documented that he was captured by the Romans and became a turncoat. He was a traitor. I mean, that's
but
documented. I'm not making that up.
yes, that's what the story says. Now, um, apparently they were stuck in some sort of cave, or they were stuck somewhere, and they decided to commit suicide. And he changed his mind at the last moment,
Right. Yes.
and
Yeah.
then
All
he
of his men died except him.
exactly so.
Yeah.
But I wonder why they consider him a turncoat. If it's only because he did not commit suicide with the others, or if it's because he said some things about his people that they didn't like. And I will
Well,
have to read more to find out. But
yeah.
really, I don't put much emphasis on that part of history because for our history, we have documents that are way, 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 way older,
Oh yeah.
and we have
Yeah.
the writing, so we don't have to
Yeah.
speculate. But yes, go ahead, please go ahead.
What I was going to say is the story that I've read about Josephus was like the one in the cave and the suicide, but also he became a favorite of the Romans because he projected that Vespasian was going to eventually be the ruler of Rome, and he did. And Titus, his son, uh, was kind of a mentee of his, and he wrote about the Roman conquest, and they liked the idea. And he lived in Rome. He had an apartment. He had a great lifestyle, and along with the Alexanders and the Herods, together they wrote favorable accounts of Roman conquest that made the Romans look good, and they
Oh, I
loved reading it.
understand. I
Well,
understand. And the Romans took were controlling Judea and
yes, and he
Palestine
made
or
them,
Canaan. So I can understand. Yes.
and he also had an Aramaic version. It was almost like he had two copies. One copy, he told his people, "Look, y'all, here's what really happened. The Romans are horrible people." That was an Aramaic. But in the Greek version, it was positive, and they destroyed all the Aramaic versions. The rabbis, now this is what the rabbis are saying. They destroyed all the copies that were in Aramaic. Am I saying it right? Aramaic, that language?
Aramaic. Aramaic.
Aramaic.
Yes.
Josephus wrote in that language for his people the Roman conquest that made it more negative towards the Romans, and then the Greek version was more positive. And so now this is what the rabbis say. I don't know if someone can, somebody can probably refute it, but I do know that he was very much favored by the Romans because he was so positive and effusive in his praise of the conquest of destroying his people. Right?
And um, I've never heard that claim about the Aramaic writing of Josephus
That's what
directed at
rabbis
these people.
reference.
Yeah, I understand. That's what the rabbis say. So eventually, I might come across that, but I doubt it because Flavius Josephus is a very central individual when it comes to history in general because he's very often tied to Jesus Christ. And his mention of him talking about Jesus or the Christ is subject to debate, but it's a very famous issue or passage. That's why I think if there was such thing as Aramaic, I think that I would have known about it or it will be mentioned more often. But then again, it's possible I don't know it all. I don't know it all.
Yeah.
I haven't read Josephus' books. I don't really plan to, but with all the books about Christianity that I'm planning on reading, eventually, if that's the case, then it will be mentioned.
Have you seen the documentary Caesar's Messiah with Joseph Atwell?
No, but you told me about the book last
I'll send
time.
it to you.
But
I'll
I didn't know. I didn't know they had a documentary. Yes, yes, please, yes.
I have your email from the PayPal. I'll send
Okay.
it to you.
All right. But that's great. That's great. So, what do you think about Kanye West's statements?
You know what? Now here's what I'll say about that. The Kardashians, they're beautiful women. They're beautiful women. They're beautiful
Every time
women.
they get with the brother loses his mind.
You know who Lamar Odom is?
Yes, he had some issues. They make you go crazy.
I mean, Reggie Bush. Remember Reggie Bush? Remember Ray J?
Yes, the football player, Ray J.
They got a history of making these, we're keeping it PG, but the Kardashians will make you lose your mind. Because, and we joke, but here's the other thing. If your woman, and I know you have a good relationship, but if your partner saw you getting ready to make a fool of yourself, I don't even know who your partner is, but she would grab you and say, baby, hold on. Don't do that. Don't say that. And so that tells me that he's not getting good family. The people who are closest to him that love him the most are not providing him wise counsel. Because if they were, they would not let him step out. If he's on medication, I'm not joking, if he isn't or he is not.
Oh, I understand, yes.
Why would you let someone that you really care for, you would say, hey, Shaka, what are you getting ready to talk about? Hey, baby, I'm getting ready to run for president. I'm getting ready to say that slavery was a choice. I'm getting ready to say, whatever he said, Harriet Tubman was crazy. She really didn't, you know that your significant other say, no, baby, don't say it that way. Why don't you say it this way? And no one said that. No one that was close to him gave him wise counsel. So I fault obviously he's got to be responsible for his words. But I
Yes.
also say there were some enablers. There were some codependency issues, maybe that he makes a lot of money. So maybe the people who surround him are fearful of losing their position with him, because if they say, "Hey man, don't say
Yes.
that. That's crazy.
Mm.
That's crazy talk."
You can
Don't
just
do that.
fire them on the spot.
You fire
Yes.
him on the spot.
Yes.
So
But maybe
I
he
feel
never
bad for him.
warned.
I feel bad
Yes,
for him.
I feel. I mean, really, I've said in the short video that I've uploaded to say that I will go live, or that I might go live, and I've said it. Really, he's been having issues. He's been having
Yeah.
issues, so that's a fact.
Yeah.
And we don't know. Maybe he never said that he was going to say those things. Not only running for president, but also making that statement about Harriet Tubman. We don't know if he told anybody
Right.
ahead that he was about to address those things. Sometimes I wonder if he really those controversial statements. Sometimes I feel like he just
Yeah. Well,
freestyles and just say it just like
our
that.
president here in the United States. It's kind of like,
Oh yeah, Trump or Trump. I mean,
yeah,
Trump talking about that drinking bleach or whatever, and then
yeah, yeah,
after the backlash, talking
yeah.
about, oh, I was just joking. Come on now.
Right. But think about it. When you are that, like, think of Kanye West and how much money he's worth. The people around you will never guard your conversations or measure or tell you not to say things. And so I think enough has happened over his lifetime where he realizes he can say whatever he wants to because of who he is. The problem is we are such a celebrity worship culture. And the other thing is, what better way to discredit a people than to let their
Then
most craziest of people be passed
yes,
off as speaking for our community, right?
yes.
There are much more smarter people that can speak, but you pick Nicki Minaj, Cardi B, Meg the Stallion, is that her name?
Yeah, Megan Thee Stallion.
Megan the Stallion,
Well,
and Kanye West.
she's
Now
not
you're
really
over in
speaking like.
France. Now I don't know what the
Yeah.
equivalents are over in France, but over in the United States, those are some poor representations of if they are representing black people and where we stand. What comical, discredited way to downgrade Biden and the whole Democratic machine than to say these are your leaders, right? These are your leaders: Kanye West, Meg the Stallion. Jill and Jada, Nicki Minaj, Lil Wayne. You guys must be laughing at us over there. I know you are. You know you're laughing at us.
No, we're not. We're not. We're not. We're not. Those people are very popular. Actually, young girls worldwide, well, at least in the West, young girls are trying to be like those. I mean,
But how
twerking
sad
has
is
been
that, Shaka?
there.
How sad is that?
Well, it's America. Besides the military force, the entertainment, music, and movies. It has always been extremely influential worldwide.
It's called
And one
programming.
example, yeah, well, programming maybe, but influence, because Japan, for example, they got their behind kicked and very sadly with two atomic bombs. Japan got back up because they are very skilled technology wide, and they
Well,
are very attached to their traditions.
can I jump in for a minute?
Yes, go ahead, brother.
We gave Japan all of the technology to become what they are today because of the war. We rebuilt Japan with our educators, scholars, all of American went to building up the Japanese infrastructure that we blew up. That's a fact.
Well, I doubt that because
no,
the
look
Japanese,
it up, Shaka,
well, because
Deming came over from the United States and worked with the Japanese after we destroyed all their plants. We helped them. I'm not saying we Americans built it. American ingenuity and technology went into helping rebuild Japan. We really did help them rebuild it.
Help to rebuild, yes, but I'm sure it came with a price.
Yes.
Just like the peacekeepers, many people don't know that when the UN sends peacekeepers to a country, they have to pay a large sum of money.
Right.
Now, if they help them, maybe, but to say that they build the technology and so on, I
Oh no,
doubt
no,
it
not
because
build the
just
technology, but
oh yes,
you
yes.
look at the factories when they first. There's a principle in the United States called the Deming principle. It's how manufacturing. It's like a textbook Bible on how to build factories and how to make them efficient. Now, I'm not saying the Japanese didn't put their spin on it, but in World War II, after everything was flattened, we sent a ton of intellectuals and educators and scholars and engineers and scientists to work with the Japanese people to rebuild their country. So when I say that, I'm saying it
Mm,
was a partnership, it was a
mm,
collaboration, but we were right in the middle of it. We were very
mm,
instrumental in helping them rebuild their country. We really were.
mm.
It,
But
let me show you
the
this
thing
book.
is that
Have you
mm,
seen this book before?
no, no, you're gonna get us in trouble. How
Well,
the
no,
Jews
it was written
invented
by a
Hollywood.
Jew. It was written. It's an actual book.
Still,
It's not
you know how
anti-Semitic.
they are.
Yeah, but it's not anti-Semitic. It was written by a Jew, and
They
it
only
talks
accept
about.
criticism coming from them. They don't accept criticism coming from anybody else.
But one
They
of their own wrote this book, and it talked about how they created Hollywood.
yes. But you know the thing is that with Japan, um, when you look at the animes, they're very
Yep,
skilled with the
yep,
anime, the
yep.
mangas.
With
I'm not
European
sure how you call
features
it, but we
too.
say manga. Exactly, you get my point. With European features, people who don't look like them.
Yep.
So, and it's not like they are a so-called third world country or impoverished country. Japan economically is doing very well because they have a debt like most countries in the world. However, they own the majority of their debt. Now, for America, it's something else. It appears like China owns a fair bit of the debt,
Of American
and
real estate.
China exactly. So, um,
Well,
they are doing very well.
the best
I'm
cars,
sorry,
the best cars
Japanese cars.
are Japanese cars.
Yes, and that's what I was going to say.
Yeah,
That's why I
Toyota.
disagree because if it was the case, then we will have great cars coming out of America. You know, you have a few brands that are doing good, but they are very expensive. But all this to say that Japan is a country where they are very attached to their tradition,
Right,
very attached to their tradition, to the point of being xenophobic. You know,
right. Yep.
but still, when it comes to the culture, at least with anime, then it's always or most of the time European features. So
Well, you mentioned
there's all those
on
things that come to play.
you
Yes.
mentioned being on code. And so one of the things I always try to get out of people is how do you define success? Like you may define success differently than me, just like you may define being on code differently than me. But I look at Jewish cultures, I look at Asian cultures, I look at Hispanic cultures. They're on code, Shaka. They're on code because they support their communities. Unfortunately, I'm talking about the African American community. We are not on code in a similar vein as those three cultures. We just aren't. And
But
I'll
you
use
know,
a quick
be
example. I'm gonna use a quick example and I'll stop talking. John Lewis and C.T. Vivian. Do you know who they are?
no.
Okay. So John Lewis marched with Dr. King and
Mhm.
C.T. Vivian marched with Dr. King. C.T. Vivian was like 96 years old. He died this weekend, and John Lewis was 80 years old, and he died. You know how in the principle of Ma'at, we talk about our ancestors and giving respect? There are people who are being very disrespectful to these two gentlemen when they were very instrumental in the civil rights struggle back in the 60s. They were very instrumental.
Who's being disrespectful towards them?
The younger, the millennials, the Gen Xers, they're being big. They feel that the
Are
physical
they
build.
white or
No, they're
black?
black. They're black. They're black.
So why do they disrespect them?
They think that they unnecessarily were nonviolent and got spit on, got hosed on, got beat with billy clubs, and they did that to curry favor with white people because they looked at them as non-confrontational, very passive, that as a result, they felt that they short-circuited the civil rights struggle because they weren't more militant. When if anyone knows the history of the civil rights struggle, we could not be violent. We could not fight back like that without killing hundreds and thousands of black folks. So if we would have taken up arms and started shooting at people, we would have been killed. We would have been killed,
Well,
and our progress would have been stunted.
most likely because I understand the criticism of the method. I don't even agree with that method. We all seen the footage. Well, I'm sure many of you have seen the footage of those people going into bars, I mean restaurants, and
Getting spit on.
being spit on, hit, without even striking back, fighting back, or defending themselves. Very sad sight. But what's for sure is that this non-violent movement and um, the efforts made by Martin Luther King that brought forth result and the end of segregation and the rights for black people to vote. Now, the vote, I don't know exactly at what point that comes in, but I'm pretty sure that it's not inaccurate if I say that during Martin Luther King's lifetime they ended segregation. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but I think
No, let me. It did not end segregation because we are just as segregated now as we were back then.
no, I mean on paper,
On paper, yes.
yes, on
yes,
paper,
sir.
yes,
On paper.
yes,
On paper.
and that's
On
that's a result, just like the African countries who gained their independence on paper.
Yeah.
That's a progress. That's a progress. So, um, it wouldn't have been easy to be in their shoes. That's the path that they chose. Now, those young ones, you have the right to criticize anyone, but are they playing their part? Are they doing their
Well,
shares?
they
You know?
say, and I remarked to one of a big YouTuber, he got mad at me because I told him on his show that he stands on the shoulders of the John Lewis's and the C.T. Vivians, and he was not very happy about that. He said YouTube is a
Well,
white-owned company. Here's what he told me: YouTube is a white-owned company, and what did John Lewis have to do with me getting my channel on YouTube? He had nothing to do with it, and that was his simplistic argument. John Lewis didn't have anything to do with creating YouTube, and I'm on YouTube, and I have a platform. How am I standing on his shoulders? So he had a very simplistic view. He wasn't looking at it at a higher level. I was basically saying that John Lewis, C.T. Vivian, Joseph Lowry, you probably don't know who he is, Andy Young,
no.
Dr. King, Ralph Abernathy. These are all men who we stand on their shoulders. And while it may not be enough today, because we still have a lot of strife, but they did what they had to do during the time that they were in to get what they needed to get. Now, some people accuse them of being sellouts because later on in life, a lot of them got on corporate boards and got paid compensation. But as far as I'm concerned, they paid their dues. If they're on the board of some major corporation getting paid, I'm not going to hold that against them, because during the time when we needed them, they came through. So now in their old age, if they need to get a little stipend from some major corporation and people look at that as a sellout, that's easier to say from the comfort of your home. But when the time for the rubber to meet the road, they were in there. Now, like John Lewis, he's in Congress, or now, he was in Congress. People are upset that he was a tool. He's a Sambo. He's a sellout because he's trying to get rights for everybody, not just black folks.
But what was he a judge at the end of his life?
No, he was a U.S.
Okay.
congressman. But
because someone passed away not long ago, but I can't remember if it was a judge or maybe it was him, but I'm not familiar with him. But I don't fault that guy to disagree that when he says that he stands on the shoulder of such and such individuals. I think it's up to the people themselves to say whose shoulder they stand on. But I see where you're coming from. Those people put some effort, and if they didn't put those efforts, then maybe we would not be where we are today. And what is true indeed, even though some people might want to debate it, is that at that time where legally we were not equal to white Caucasians to fight directly, the Panthers did that even after Martin Luther King. And ultimately, there will be shootouts and shootouts upon shootouts upon shootouts and death. And there's a documentary about Fred Hampton.
Yeah.
How they went in and, so we've seen what happened afterwards. So during the time, even before, when still legally on paper,
Well, the
on
other thing
paper.
is, well, the other thing is, when you look back at that time, literally, your life was in danger.
Yes.
They could very easily have disappeared and never be seen again if they really were perceived as a violent threat. If they really felt
I mean,
that those gentlemen were going to pick up arms and encourage black folks to march on Washington with handguns and rifles and start shooting. And here's another thing. Have you ever heard of COINTELPRO?
of
COINTELPRO.
course, of
Okay,
course.
so that's what you're
J.
referring
Edgar
to.
Hoover, the FBI
Yes,
program.
that's
Oh,
the
of
Fred
course, of
Hampton.
course.
Yeah, that's what
Mm,
that was for.
mm. And there's the issue. That's why I love that movie by Mario Van Peebles, movie called Panther or
Yeah,
Panthers. I'm not sure if
yeah.
there's an S, but it shows that ultimately they decided to bring drugs into the areas populated by black people.
Yeah, the Iran, you're talking about the
And
Iran Contra affair, aren't you? Talking about Iran Contra?
well, that's part of it.
Oliver North,
In the movie of in the movie
Reagan.
they don't say those names, but a lot of people don't know about that.
Yeah,
And it's inconvenient to the US
yeah,
government.
yeah.
But it is factual.
It is
I don't think
factual.
someone can say that it is a hoax or a conspiracy theory.
Pablo Escobar. Yep.
So yeah, and many others maybe, but the drugs was there. The drugs were there. Like in the movie, that's fiction, but in the movie New Jack City, Nino Brown, when he's in court, he says, "Let's kick the ballistics. None of us here owns a poppy field, and no who's these men in Harlem, you know."
Right.
So that drug came from somewhere,
Yep.
and
And we don't own any airplanes. Shaka, you forgot. We don't own
yes,
any airplanes.
yeah. So the drug gets there, and it is what it is. But yes, the COINTELPRO that was
Well,
very
it's still going
very
on today.
severe. Well,
COINTELPRO
yes,
is
but
still today.
it's not as severe as before because
Ooh,
before
I don't know.
they were really about well we can argue that, but back then they were really first they were like disruption, rumors, conflict,
Well,
fake phone calls and stuff like that, having people fighting each other. But eventually, they got busy on the murder game. They put that murder game down, really.
well,
And Fred Hampton is one example, and also, of course, incarceration. You
here's where
know,
I was going, and you can look this up. This is documented. This is not a conspiracy theory. Uh, uh, Attorney Barr. Do you know who Attorney Barr is in the United States? He's our Attorney General of the United States. He works for President Trump.
hmm
He's our
I don't
Attorney
know him,
General.
but
Okay,
hmm
our Attorney General's father, okay, his father, who's deceased now, was a member of the precursor of the CIA. That's a fact. It's documented. His father became a educator at a really prestigious prep school in New York. And he hired a non-college educated, he didn't have his degree, Jeffrey Epstein.
dang.
That's the truth. This, and if anybody's listening, they can. This is verifiable. This is not a conspiracy. Jeffrey Epstein worked at this prestigious boys' school in New York with no qualifications. He miraculously left and became a billionaire.
Yeah, apparently people don't really know how he got his money. You know,
Oh, I
people
just
know
told you
how
how
he
he
got
got his
some
money.
of his money, but
He was part
but
of the
then again,
Mossad. He was part of the
what
Mossad.
oh, was he?
Yes.
Okay, but well, since he was into pedophilia, we can understand how he got so rich because he was a great provider. He's the ultimate pimp.
Yes.
Ultimate
Him and his
pimp. That
girlfriend,
dude.
Giselle.
Uh,
And what I'm getting to is you say there's no COINTELPRO. Let me ask you this.
Oh, I
How
didn't
did
say there
you
isn't any.
oh
I was saying that back then it was more severe, and
yeah.
that's where you kind of disagree because what I argue is that back then it was way more severe. Now they don't have to kill like they used to.
Well, you see how they engineered his suicide in prison.
I don't know if they engineered it. He might have just killed himself. It's shameful to be uh
But
close
but
to and I don't know what happened.
Yeah,
Maybe he
yeah.
was killed. But I'm saying it's
Well,
a possibility that you're a billionaire and you know heads of states and very famous people, and then you're arrested for a child trafficking, pedophilia, and rape.
well,
Some
don't you find
people,
it interesting? Don't you find it interesting on the day that he supposedly committed suicide that the guards fell asleep and all the planets aligned just perfectly so that he could do this without being detected and it was monitored?
wow, the planet, you mean
Oh, I mean, I'm
the
using
planets?
metaphysically. Yeah, I mean,
Oh, okay, okay,
it's a
okay.
metaphor to say
Because I was
everything
gonna
that.
say when it comes to planet alignments, that metaphysics stuff, but it's true. We can wonder how come such a high profile inmate manages to kill himself. Now his girlfriend or she, they're taking measures so she cannot commit suicide. But there was someone who was accused of war crimes, and the video is there, and he was on trial, and he made a statement like maybe he said, "I'm innocent," or "I can't stand it," and he took some poison and he drank it,
Sure.
and he died. So people might wonder, how did he get this poison? I mean, sometimes when you're powerful, like there's a guy, there's the Japanese company Nissan, and the head of it is a French slash Brazilian slash Lebanese guy called Carlos Ghosn, and he was accused of money laundering. I mean, all kind of thing to do with misbehaving with money, very high profile thing, and he was arrested in Japan. Now he was released before the trial. They took his passport away and stuff like that, and he successfully fled to Lebanon. Now he's good now because they won't extradite, they won't send him away anyway.
Extradite. Yeah.
So yeah, exactly, that's the word I was looking for. And so sometimes powerful people, they have ways to find things that they can. I mean, just another example. And once again, I'm not saying that um, I don't know if he killed himself or if he was killed. It's a possibility that he was killed, just like it's a possibility that he killed himself. Now, there is a famous drug dealer out of Washington. I forgot his name, but in a documentary about him, they said that he smuggled a pizza in prison. You know, so if someone can smuggle a pizza, of course he paid.
Right.
If you offer enough money, people will do stuff for you. And it's
Yeah.
possible that he had whatever it was that he used to kill himself. I think it was by way of hanging or whatever.
Yeah.
All I'm trying to say is that it is a possibility. I
Yeah.
mean, usually people will smuggle small things, for drugs, small tools to use as
Yeah.
weapon, but that's a pizza. What I'm saying? That's a whole box. But then it's just an analogy. But what's for sure is that we just don't know. We can
Right.
assume, we can presume. And unfortunately nowadays, because of the internet, now black people, we are gullible in general. And with the internet, there are
Illuminati.
many conspiracy. Yes, Illuminati. What's the other one? Skulls and Bones.
Skulls and bones. Yeah. Yeah.
And Freemasons and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
many times when there's a conspiracy theory and people jump and go along with it, and
Yeah.
in France, when there is a terror attack, because back then when I grew up, terrorist attack was very rare. There was one bombing in a train, and there was some nails inside of that bomb. Now I can't remember if there was some casualty, if there was any death, but many injured, and that stuck into people's mind, into people's psyche. But that was very remote. Now, lately in the last year, we had many terror attack, and now in France, a lot of people, every time there's a terrorist attack, killing, they say, "Oh, it's the government," or they say, "Oh, it's the Zionists," and so on. Like it comes
Yeah.
to the point where nobody from those conspiracy theories, who many times happen to be Muslim, I don't know why. Well, I know why, but there it is. It's more convenient to say the Zionists were behind it or the government was behind it.
Right.
And but it comes to the point where no matter what happens, they will always say that the government or some other entity is behind it, that it is false flagging, and it's a shame. And really, when it comes to the uh, what's the name? Even with swine flu and stuff like that, people
Right.
we making theories, and now, of course, with the coronavirus, we have people who say that it's on purpose and stuff like that. Now, I really doubt that people who want to reduce the population will leave out a virus so ferocious, and people might argue that they don't know it will be that ferocious. But then again, no matter what happens, there will always be conspiracy theory. And at the end of the day, there is one simple principle for some people. It is to look for a bigger monster,
Right.
point a bigger monster. So sometimes black people, if for example we talk about Farrakhan damn near praising Malcolm X's killers, they will tell us either that was what it was a long time ago, well, slavery was a long time ago as well. We're not going to forget that. But anyway, or they might say, oh yeah, there's more important. Our people are dying. People will deflect. People will basically pick and choose what's important to them, what should be our priorities. And that leads us to being on code. It's
Right.
not precise enough because you mentioned the other population. You mentioned Jews and Asian stuff like that, but there is a very fundamental difference with this other groups, ethnic groups, or religious groups, and us, an Israeli, because we, of course, we say Jew. This is a religion. It's not an ethnic group, but many times it's interchangeable. But if it's an Israeli, for the most part, he will be Jewish,
Right.
and he will have a language in common and in common and a history. So three key points of a culture: the language, the religion, and the history. An Arab, we have the language in common, the religion in common, and the history in common. The Hindu, we have the language in common, and so on. But with black people, we are all over the place:
Yeah.
Jew, Hebrew, Israelite,
Yeah.
Christian, Muslim, um, Moor, all over the place. That's not our language. That's not our culture or religion. That's not our story. And yet, here, still in 2020, we're still arguing over those things.
Well,
And
doesn't it?
it's not wrong. There's nothing wrong with arguing about those things. But
Well,
when we're going down to the facts and we ask for records, that's where it gets tricky.
well, doesn't it go back to what we talk about when we say African spirituality? And so, if I am programmed, if I'm whitewashed and brainwashed from Christianity or Islam or Judaism, and you come along and try to explain to me about Asar, Aset, and Heru, I reject that because I haven't heard of it before. The others I've heard of. So, isn't there certain programming, conditioning that prevents us from loving ourselves? Because if I can discount what you're talking about in terms of African spirituality, then I can go off on all these wild tangents, right? About the Illuminati. But if you can get people to realize where you came from, Kemet, the Sudan, Ethiopia, all the, if you understand your history, then you will be, and that's why maybe the people that would be the best audience are young people and not older people, because older people are
It's
too
true.
set in their ways.
It's
They're
true.
not going to
It's
accept
true.
because they've got too much invested. Can you imagine a Baptist preacher who has 10,000 members, who drives a Mercedes and he's got a $60 million airplane, and then you are brought to speak at the church and you start talking about African spirituality and that the story of Jesus right? There's 16 examples of a virgin birth, of which Jesus is one of 16, right? Am I misstating that?
Well, there is a book called The 16 Crucified Savior. I haven't read it, but it's mentioned
Yeah.
many,
And
many
so, but
times.
all of them are a version of the story of Jesus. And if you tell that to a Baptist preacher and they are trying to keep the lights on, they're trying to pay salaries, you are
You're messing
jeopardizing
with
their
his bread.
revenue stream.
Yes,
And you don't
indeed,
even have a
it's a
PhD.
reality. And yes, yes, and some have PhDs, but in theology,
Right.
not in historical fields or other fields. But actually, we have many who have PhDs in theology. But it's true. It's and that's why I say many times the big guys on the block, they have a lock and they make a livelihood. Many of them make a livelihood. So some of them might know deep inside that what they are talking about is not necessarily factual, but it works for them, and that's how they eat, and that's how they live lavishly for some of them. So they don't want to lose that, and I can understand that. I can understand that. But the young ones, I hope, will see through it.
Yeah, I think they will. Well, it's funny.
They
One
will.
more quick question. it's funny the analogy that I just gave, even though we know, the story of Jesus, there's questions about it, but I just described kind of you being Jesus in a way, right? In that you are going
Uh,
up against the intelligentsia, the
there,
established religions of the
that's,
world. I'm joking with you,
but
but
I know that's an
a
analogy, but you
ponder.
know how they are. They're gonna say it's blasphemous. They're gonna say it's outrageous. How can you compare him with Jesus? I mean,
But
so
you
I
know what
mean,
I'm
sometimes
saying?
we have to be diplomatic. I know what you're trying to say,
You're
but
up
we
against a
sometimes
machine. Yeah, you're up against a machine.
mm, mm. But I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one, really. I'm not the only one. It's not as like it's exclusive. But I would say I'm one of those who is really strictly independent. Strictly, I don't make a living with what I do. I work full time. I'm not a member of any organization. I'm not financed or funded. When I receive money, that is through the donations on the super chat or PayPal, and a little bit eventually from the monetization. And for those who have a YouTube account that is monetized, well, they would tell you that the monetization is real funny. And in the last few months, for the last year or so, it's been very funny. It has reduced greatly. And then we had the COVID.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's just for the record. But like I said before, I am satisfied with the improvement or the progress because slowly but surely more and more people get to learn some information about black people's culture. And many people I know are saying that Judaism, Christianity, Islam, that's our story as well. But then again, it's not a challenge, but the discussion has always been open to show and prove. And I know now that many of them have gotten served so badly that they are trying to say now, well, we don't know for sure about the depictions, that don't tell it all. And then they say, oh, but brother, in Ethiopia and Eritrea and Somalia, they have kind of straight hair. So, brother, that's not, we never know. Yeah, okay, that's fine. I let them say that. But we don't
Yeah.
have only sculptures. We don't have only statues. We have paintings as well. We
Yeah.
have paintings as well. And
Well,
the
you have
linguistic
carvings.
doesn't lie as we have
Carvings,
carvings, but
right?
what I'm trying to say is that with the statues, when I show the phenotype, some people, I mean, I get so many comments as people can imagine, and very often I have people telling me, well, you never know, and some people have noses that they are not their nose is like pointy, even though they are black, and it's true. Some black people have noses that are more or less pointy, but there is a predominant phenotype when it comes to black people. Now,
Well,
some other people will say, oh, but look at the Dravidians. They have straight hair and the features. Okay, if you consider the Dravidians as black Africans, then it's on you. It's on you.
well,
We
but
have in India some, yes.
think about what you're
Go
saying
ahead,
though.
bud.
All of what you're describing is a cry for help that says, I'm somebody. I was first. I count. Don't discount me. And this is what I think is the appeal of Farrakhan is he is an unapologetic, confident, authoritative black man. And I'm gonna leave it at that. Everything else I'm not gonna I'm not gonna state on. But the fact that you've got a man that puts his chest out, he's not afraid to say what he thinks, and he's not afraid of any consequences. So I think for African Americans, there's a famous movie star
Oh,
named
I'm sorry, but he's very afraid of consequences. That's why he silenced Khalid. That's why he silenced Khalid. He said,
well,
though we agree with the truth that he said, we disagree with the manner in which he said it. I mean, that's so weird. If you want to criticize or make a statement to say, well, that statement was made, we agree with the truth, but not the manner. So that doesn't really represent us. That's one thing. But he got silenced and really it's like he was kicked out because Khalid made a interview and he was in England and he said at one point, I don't even know if I remember now, you know?
well, I guess what I mean is
Hmm.
relative to most African Americans, Farrakhan is an outspoken, unapologetic,
Oh yes, yes,
uncompromising
yes, yes,
spokesperson
yeah,
of
yes.
focus on black people.
Mm.
And for a
But
lot of us,
I agree. Mm.
and so
I'm sorry.
there's a
Yeah.
famous movie star by the name of Lincoln Monroe Perry. Have you heard that name? He goes by the name of Stephen Fetchon. Have you heard of him before?
No.
Okay. If you look him up after we're done, he was one of the very first black millionaires, and he made his money.
Oh, the one who played the buffoon and
Yes, but
uneducated
he
black
was
man. Yes,
wealthy.
you he was
He was
wealthy.
wealthy.
Yes, you've told us about him the last time.
And
But
he
you see,
became a
with
Muslim.
five.
He became a Muslim at the end of his life.
All right. Well, I didn't know that, but was it like NOI Muslim or Orthodox Muslim?
I don't know what, but he was friends with Muhammad Ali, Cassius Clay at the time, and
Okay.
Muhammad Ali,
Okay.
and he did hang out with him at the end of his life. I think he was in his
Mm.
70s or 80s. But what I'm getting to is it's such refreshing to see a black man stand up for himself. And that's what I think is the appeal of Farrakhan. It doesn't necessarily matter
Mm.
what he's saying for a lot of black folks. The fact that
Mm.
he says it with such vigor, such passion, such authority and majesty, right? When a lot of African Americans work for white corporations and they cannot be as outspoken. So that's why I think people give him a pass, is they look at him kind of as an outspoken critic of white supremacy and white nationalism, even if when you do a microscopic breakdown of the words that are coming out of his mouth, you're doing more scholarly research. You're actually doing a deep dive, and you say, wait a minute, guys, this doesn't track. Well, you're missing the emotion of it, the
I
majesty
agree.
of it.
I agree. In America, there's a tradition of bootlicking
Yes,
Farrakhan, and people see him as a black pope, and a lot of people will look up to Farrakhan, and a lot of people couldn't even tell you why. Besides that, their parents did the same, or their cousin or uncle did the same, and many
yeah,
of them couldn't even tell you two sentences from Farrakhan's speeches,
right.
and
Well,
um,
well, it's just
and
like
a lot of
Christians.
them and a lot of them don't even know that Farrakhan teaches that we didn't have kinky hair, blood nose, and thick lips, and after we rebelled against God, we were disfigured. That our phenotype is the essence of ugliness. I hear people like Charlemagne the God on a
Right.
regular basis inviting Asiatic black men, but
Yeah.
if one day I have the chance, I will ask him, so you are cool with people who teach that Africans are living a jungle life? Because in the supreme wisdom of the nation of Islam, he says that Africans are living a jungle life. In some of Elijah Muhammad's teachings, he says that Africans are not civilized and so on. So, you know, there's not only Charlemagne the God, there's many artists, singers, entertainers. And it's funny to me when I hear them talking about black talk and being offended when some racist stuff are said, you know. But Tariq Nasheed, Willie D, Killer Mike, Erika Badu, and so many other people, I would
But
just love to ask them. So let me get this straight. You are cool with people that says that Africans are living a jungle life and the black people are disfigured and our phenotype is the essence of ugliness. They would be silent about that. And I
but,
think it's weak. I
but here,
think they are being cowards.
but
Hold on, brother. I'm saying this because
you're right.
I don't want people to feel like I want them to attack Farrakhan. But as a human being, you have the right to say, I disagree with that. That they will not even say. They will not even say, I disagree with that. Even if they still kick it with the NY and Farrakhan and whatever. And just to finish my thought, Farrakhan is inheriting from the legacy of Elijah Muhammad, Ali Muhammad, formerly Cassius Clay, and Malcolm X, and in general, the black struggle movement, including the Panthers, because when the Panthers were getting busy, the NOR was nowhere to be found. Sit back, relaxing, or whatever they were doing. And after Garvey's movement, we had all these different people try to get into the game. And history made it that the NOR did his thing thanks to the millions of dollars that they received from Gaddafi. Because those millions of dollars that they received back in the 70s, today, the people who deal with economy, they should be able to tell us how much it is worth. Those $3 million that they received back in the 70s, I'm sure that's a mighty lot of money back then. So some people might feel like I'm just looking for excuses as to why Farrakhan is popular. It is what it is. If you
Well,
love him, follow him. But I want to say to some people, sometimes they need to chill. If he's so great, then why don't you just go and join the Nation of Islam? As a human being, I have the right to disagree with people who says that Africans are living a jungle life and that black people are disfigured. Trust me, trust me. If I'm receiving millions of dollars on several occasions, I would do as good as a job as the NOR, if not a better job as the NOR, because the Nation of Islam have been losing a lot of infrastructures, and they ended up rolling with the Church of Scientology.
mm,
But I will leave
well,
it there,
well,
even though I might sound like a hater.
no, 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 no. But here's what I'm saying.
Not to you,
I'm
not to you, to the
okay.
Asiatic black man.
Oh yeah. So I'm still learning about African spirituality for the last couple of months, but I listen to what Ma'at is supposed to stand for, and everything that you just said that they're doing is so contrary to Ma'at that if they understood African spirituality, they could see how dysfunctional their thoughts are. So where I'm going is the YouTubers that you mentioned are exponentially more successful than you are, Shaka. They are.
Yes.
And
And
you
that's
know
good
what
for
they
them.
and you know what they trade in? They trade in half truths, extreme articulateness. I'm not going to mention their name, but some of those YouTubers that you mentioned have very good communication skills and they're very entertaining. And they have 147,000. They've done movies, and they do it because most African Americans are followers. We don't lead, we follow. We're looking for, it's kind of a savior complex. And I'll even say it to you. I've heard somebody even on your channel defer to you and say, Shaka, please, I'm saying this a certain way, but can you please correct me? And I will listen to your words of wisdom because you're smarter than I am. Now, I didn't agree with what
Oh,
that
I don't
person
remember
said.
that.
And I'm
I don't
saying,
remember that.
yeah, I won't tell you the person's name, but you it probably
Mm.
glossed over you because she
Yeah,
was looking
you
for
probably because
validation.
I normally I would have said, well, I wouldn't say that. I don't know your intelligence, but I guess she was trying to compliment me, and
But you
she
see
went
how she put you
overboard.
on a
She
pedestal.
went overboard. Yes, yes.
Yes, she put you on a pedestal, but that's what we
Mm.
do when we don't know who we are. We're always looking for a savior instead of, now you tell me this is what I'm learning through my art and African spirituality. We are taught that all the change that we need to make is within ourselves because we're connected to a higher power. So I don't need to look to Shaka for my deliverance. I can look within myself and get what I need. Now, that doesn't mean I don't get guidance from you, but all of what I need, I've already got. I don't need to look at Tariq. I don't need to look at Shaka. I don't need to look at Farrakhan. I don't need to look at Professor Black Truth. I don't need to look at Jason Black with Black Authority. I don't need to look at Jesse Jackson. None. I don't look at Barack Obama. Everything I need, I've already got the capability. Now, that doesn't mean I can't learn from these people, but because we are looking for that savior complex and we're lazy, unfortunately, not all, but a large, we just want to open up our head and you just pour the knowledge in. I want to eat some hot chicken wings, some beers, go to the club, go to church, read the Bible, love my wife, raise my kids, and just call it a life. That's all I want. I mean, I'm just being hypothetical. A lot of people don't want to put in the work. It's too hard, Shaka.
Yes.
It's too hard. You got
Well,
to read.
that's why so many people. That's why so many people say the Medunet has not been deciphered. It's just easier than to
Yeah,
deal with it and learn it. But brother, you said that black people are followers, and I think most people in the world are followers.
yeah,
But the thing with black people is that we tend to follow people who are seen as leaders. It's to the point where it's like a football team. Now I don't know how it is in America, but in Europe there's soccer. We call it football, but it's
right.
soccer.
Yes.
And in a country like England, you have to have a team. You have to have a team that you support, and you just roll with that team no matter what. And many people are like that in France. But the thing is that we tend to follow people more in a religious setting. Um, But what I would like to say, because earlier you mentioned Isis, Horus, and Osiris,
Or
and so on. But
yeah.
I really want to tell everybody who's listening right now, young brothers and sisters, please make the distinction between the religious aspect of ancient Egypt or Kemet and the history or the historical facts or records of ancient Egypt and Kemet. Yesterday, I think it was, somebody asked me for, do I believe that the Neteru were real? Now, Neteru, that's gods, plural. That's Medu Neteru. That's an ancient language which is called hieroglyphics in English. Now, I replied that I don't know, and we don't even know the time period for the gods. However, when it comes to the rulers, we have their records, we have stories about them that were written during their lifetime, sometimes after their lifetime, but for the most part, when it comes to pharaohs, at least, we have stories about them during their lifetime. And not only the pharaohs, the wives of the pharaohs, the children of the pharaohs, the assistants, the viziers, the intendants, the housekeepers, and so on. So please, young brothers and sisters, make the distinction between the spiritual aspect or the belief, the Heka or the magic. We have that Medu nature word called Heka, and it stands for magic. At least that's its translation in English. You understand? Now,
Hmm.
there's also Heka, meaning ruler, like Heka Kasut, which brought forth Hyksos in Greek. But Heka also has the meaning of magic. There is this aspect in Kemet. There were beliefs. Pharaohs were buried with what they called, or what we call, let's say, shabtis. And those are small statuettes. And the belief is that after the deceased in the afterworld, they will say some magic spells, and those shabtis will come into human form and serve them in the afterlife as they were being served while they were alive. That's the spiritual aspect or the religious aspect. Asar, Heru, Aset, that's more or less spiritual aspect. We don't know the time period. Some people argue that maybe initially Osar or Osiris was a historical person and he was later deified. And that is true. I made a video about that. I can't remember the title. But some historical figures in Kemet were later on deified. So that could be a possibility. But then again, we don't know. The time period will have to be definitely remote.
Wouldn't
I
you
don't think
agree?
Ed. Yes, go ahead, brother.
Wouldn't you agree though? There was a ruler of Kemet. A first. There had to have been a ruler of Kemet, right? The first one.
I couldn't even say who the first one will be. The most famous is Narmer or
Okay.
Menas or Menes or Many, and that's the usual date is 3100 BCE.
Okay.
Reunification or unification, some might say Sematawi, unification of Upper and Lower Egypt. Some people argue that he chased away or defeated some Asiatics. Others will say it was black on black war. But nevertheless, when it comes to the first dynasty, that's Nama or Menes. But we have pre-dynastic
Mm,
period or era, and we have names of rulers.
okay.
And that's
Who
the
was the
early
woman?
stage.
Who was the woman?
Com-
Ayana? Is it Ayana or Ianin? Ayana, a woman that was a deity or a ruler. I might be spelling her name wrong.
well, I don't know the
Okay.
one you're talking about right now. It's
Yeah.
possible there was one called like that. I don't know all the rulers.
Okay.
The most famous female ruler has to be, well, if it's not Queen C or Queen Nefertari, if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken, Ramesses II's wife, then that would be Hatshepsut, because Hatshepsut actually ruled more or less solely. Queen C was ruling a long time, or ruling. She was the wife of Amenhotep III. Amenhotep was ruling. Then Akhenaten, his son, was deeply into his Aten worship, and he was not taking care of business. So his mother, Queen T, was taking care of business when it
Okay.
comes to the surrounding areas. But Hatshepsut, she really ruled as a just like a more or less just like a normal traditional pharaoh. But Ayana, I don't know. Maybe that would be the one uh, from Kush or
That might have
areas
been
around
what
the Sudan.
that might
Yes,
have been who it was.
because we had some female ruler in Sudan, and apparently she even kicked some Europeans' butt. But I'm not too familiar with her.
Yeah. Now the Sudan people invaded and created Kemet. Am I oversimplifying that? Or the Ethiopians?
I don't know if we can say that. I really don't know. Many times, most people who are into Kemet say that they come from the south. We have many reasons to believe that it is the case. And sometimes people say that there are more pyramids in Sudan than in Egypt,
Right.
and it will lead them to think that this is a evidence that Sudan was first there first as a civilization, and then Egypt later on. However, the pyramids in Sudan are way more recent than the pyramids in Egypt or Kemet.
Okay.
For example, the three great pyramids in the Giza Plateau, that's 2600 BC, 2600 BCE. I had one quote also. I think it was about the coffin, and it's probably from the Oxford History of Ancient Egypt. I don't know if I got the name right, but I made a video about that, and they were talking about. Well, you know what? I will look for it right now. But I think it's they say that they found a coffin or mummy, which was possibly the world's oldest. And I'm just scrolling real quickly. I just typed oldest, but I don't see it there. But who knows? Maybe the civilization of Kemet was
Yeah.
there before the one of Nubia. But then there's Nubia, there's Kush, there's Kerma. Who knows?
Hmm.
The most important for us to l- when we make claims, we should make claims with what the data allows us to say.
Right.
So there's some, and also, brothers and sisters, young brothers and sisters, I want you to know that there are some things that we will never know. Because one of the reasons also a lot of people are into the Abrahamic belief system, particularly the Bible, is because they have that book, which never came as it was in one go. It took hundreds of years, but they have one book where basically it explains to you what happens from the beginning into now more recent time or nowadays. So they read it through just like a story, just like you will see in a movie or you will hear on the
Hmm.
radio. And sometimes people will say, well, okay, how did that come about then? Sometimes I see some debates, particularly in London. They have a speaker's corner, or they have sorry, the Hyde Park. They have that park in London, and a lot of time you have Muslims debating Christians, Kemetic people debating Muslims, or Kemetic people debating Christians. And a lot of time the Abrahamic people, they say, well, how did that come about then? How did men and women came about then, and so on? Because in their theology, they have an explanation because God did it this way. I'm not in a position to say how human beings came about, where,
Right.
and what time it was. And I don't think that in the text we have any such things. But
Well,
we do have. Yes, go ahead, brother.
no, I was gonna say to my Christian brothers though, the ones that are literalists, like I told you before, he said God took a rib from Adam and created a woman. And he honestly believes that.
Yes, and that's his religion.
Yeah.
He believes that just like a Jew in the Torah,
Yeah.
a Christian believe in the Bible. Well, that's a Christian, but just like a Muslim believes in everything that is written in the Quran,
Yeah.
and also most of what is written in the Hadith.
Hmm.
It's a shame I don't find that
Has
quote
anyone
about the.
has anyone ever explained Cain and Abel when they got married? So if Adam and Eve birthed Cain and Abel, who did they marry?
Uh, well, I mean, this is a very common thing. After Cain killed his brother, we said that he met his wife, and so a lot of people say, where does she come from then? It means
Yes.
there were people already there. But then again, when I was a Christian, I used to say, well, the Bible would not necessarily explain each and every single thing in history of humankind, but there are so many contradictions in the Bible. I was thinking about doing a broadcast about contradictions in the Bible, but I think most of them, people who have studied a little bit, they will know about them because now we have the internet and we have many websites, we have many posts we can copy and paste, and people have been studying the Bible for centuries. So those contradictions have been highlighted, but
You
there
would
are
think
so many.
you would think
Yes.
so, but unfortunately, like I said, I know a group of gentlemen who have never heard of anything that we're talking about. And one of the things that I shared with somebody, like I'm going to send you the email on the Caesar's Messiah, the the Flavians, the Herods, the Alexanders, and Josephus, and the intelligentsia of the time. I mean, Bible scholars are saying they are the originators of the four Gospels. That's what I'm getting ready to send you. I mean, and he goes through a methodical, it's a factual, it's his facts. Now, granted, you'll probably be able to research and confirm some of it, but he's basically saying the Flavians, the Herods, the Alexanders, and Josephus, along with the intelligentsia of the time, created the four Gospels. And they were basically Josephus retelling Roman conquest. And the way he compares the four Gospels to the Bible, or to Josephus's description of the Roman conquest, Shaka, it's almost like word for word. You read Josephus describe the Roman conquest of destroying Judea and destroying the Jews and their homeland, and then you read about the story of Jesus, and it's almost like it's a carbon copy, just said a different way, but it's the same identical story, and it's mind-boggling. How do you? And they say, well, that's a coincidence. Well, okay, okay. And they even said the term gospel is the good news of conquest or something. Like the good news of battle is the definition. Now, this is a scholar saying, now maybe someone else that'll listen to this will refute it, but they said the term gospel, when you translate it, it means the good news of conquest, or the good news of overcoming adversity or something like that. But I don't know what to tell people if you think it's just a coincidence that the Josephus account of the Roman conquest matches up, story by story with the story of Jesus. And the other one is the fact that they can't find him. They can't, all of the people who would have lived during, after, and before the time of Jesus, like normal, actually people who lived, they said you would have thought somebody would have mentioned something about a person
Yes,
performing these miracles just in
it's true.
passing. And they can't find any literature during his time, after, before. And then the last thing I'll say, and like I said, I don't know all the research, but the Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John, once again, Bible scholars are saying the four Gospels are really just one Gospel, Mark, that's been told three different times. And that's according to their research. That's not me saying it. They're saying the Gospel of Mark is the only Gospel. Luke, John, and Matthew are just retelling Mark because of the time period. I think one of the Gospels was written like 150 years after another Gospel. So I can't even remember what I did yesterday, let alone 150 years to recount the story of a man that nobody during the time can say, oh, yeah, I remember him. Or, yeah, he did that. Or I was there when I had no independent verification. And like I said, I am not saying that it didn't happen. I'm just saying scholars are trying to find historical Jesus, and they can't find evidence from anybody who lived around his time that he's quoted that could actually say, yeah, I remember when he did that. All you got is the four Gospels.
But you know what some people are doing? Hold on. What I will do actually, so this can be clear. What they are doing is that when I always said that I agree with you, you would think that this guy who performed miracle, walked on water, changed water into wine, multiplied bread and fishes, resurrected Lazarus, resurrected
Yeah,
a young girl,
yeah.
um, healed the ear of his follower,
Yeah,
resurrected, reappeared after being killed, and
yeah,
went into heaven in front of a crowd. You would think that someone will write about that, particularly knowing that the day that he was crucified, there was what we can call an eclipse and an earthquake, and
right,
apparently also some saints went out of their graves. Also, some people came out of their grave walking or whatever, but
right.
they would like to say that we have the super natural Jesus, but the historical Jesus was not necessarily like that. Like
Yeah,
some dude that I don't want to name is talking about they are trying to make Jesus just like the people from the Old Testament. But
yeah, yeah,
the fact remain is that we don't have anything. But I just wanted to share that. Um, I thought I had a video about that, but maybe I didn't
yeah.
because I've quoted many times from the Oxford History of Ancient Egypt. But I was first looking for coffin, then I looked for tomb, then I looked for oldest, but it's actually oldest African grave. So I'm just going to read to people for the record. Now it says, on the one hand, the results of excavations during the 1980s and the 1990s in the cemeteries of El Kaiba at Abydos suggests that before the first dynasty, there was also a dynasty zero stretching back for some unknown period into the fourth millennium BC. So they are telling us that there's a dynasty from unknown period, God knows how long ago, until about the fourth millennium BC. Young brothers and sisters, that's 4,000 before Christ or before the common era. This means that, at the very least, the last 1 or 2 centuries of the pre dynastic were probably, in many respects, politically and socially dynastic. Conversely, the increasing realization that Nagada III pottery types were still widely used in the early dynastic period shows that certain cultural aspects of the pre-dynastic period continued into the pharaonic period. Now, there's no mention of the grave. Maybe it's a note that I made to myself. So, hold on. Let me just. There's only one. It's not that quote. It's not that quote. But I had a. I will have to look for it. But
Well, you know what? Have you ever been able to explain the dinosaurs?
oh, the dinosaurs. That's millions of years ago. So I'm not even.
I mean, Noah's Ark, dinosaurs. How do you, what do you, I mean, I've heard all kinds of explanations, and they still can't explain dinosaurs. Some people say God just put the bones there, but they were never really all kinds of wild. They came from outer space. They're
Yeah,
aliens.
some people say that. Well, some people say that it's Satan who put the bones there to confuse people.
Yeah. Oh boy.
That's Abrahamic believers who say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was looking for that book. Well, never mind. Something else for me to look at. That I quote about what is possibly the oldest African grave. Just to say that we're talking about Africa, and the oldest is probably from Kemet, from Egypt. So that
Right.
was in relationship with your question about Nubia eventually being there before Kemet. But as
Right.
usual, we can stick to what the data allows us to say. But when it comes to history, we can find remains that will be dated just so long ago in the Louvre Museum. Well, when it comes to the Bible, we usually hear about the Gilgamesh epic
Mm-hmm.
as possibly the inspiration for the flood story. There is also the eye for eye, tooth for tooth. In the Louvre
Old
Museum,
Testament.
you have,
Old Testament. Right.
yes, yes, and you have the, I think it's called Hammurabi Code. The stela, the stela is in the cylinder shaped stela is in the Louvre Museum. I've made a video about that. And there's a translation that the Louvre Museum has made. It doesn't come from me. And they mention the punishments, and basically it's the same as tooth for a tooth and eye for an eye and so on. But besides that, um, I wanted to mention something from the Louvre Museum. Yes, there is the video that I made that showed the shows a timeline about ancient Egypt, and you have Nagada II. I think it starts by from the period called Nagada II, because just for the young ones, we have so much history that spans so long ago that we have different time period. Just like you hear the Stone Age, the Bronze Age, and stuff like that. For ancient Egypt or that area, we have Nagada II, then Nagada I, and it starts at 3800 BCE. On that
Mm.
quote that I just read, it talks about Nagada III. So, uh, well, actually, I wonder why, because amazingly, it sounds like it starts by Nagada 3 and then Nagada 2 and then Nagada 1. But I will have to double check because that's not the order that we will go. But
Kemet
hold
goes
on.
back to 2500,
Let's
right?
see.
2500 is Kemet.
Well, there's the dynastic period and the pre-dynastic period. Now, the dynastic period, it starts with Narmer. The consensus says that it starts with Narmer at 3100 BC.
Okay.
So uh, yes, 3100 BC, 3100 BC for the first dynasty, and then you have the pre-dynastic period, and that goes.
More than 4000, obviously.
Now this is like I will show brothers and sisters. You can see what I'm talking about. Hold on, let me reduce the volume. Reduce the volume. So let me do a screen share. There it is. Oh, okay. I think I've made a more recent one, but that one that was back in the day when I had the Ning network. Let me go back. Let me go back. So here you see that's in French, but it says chronology of ancient Egypt from 3800 BC to 30 BC. And you see, it starts. Well, I was wrong. I made a mistake, so I was able to correct myself because I found it strange. It starts with Nagada 1, and then Nagada 2, and then you have, and Nagada 2 is from 3500 BC, 3500 BC. That's pre-dynastic. That's
Yeah.
pre-dynastic. You understand? And then you will
Yep.
have, I think, Nagada 3, and then you have the dynastic period. Hold on. That's still Nagada 2. Yes, Nagada 3, and then the Thinite period. But basically, that's where you will have. Hold on. Yes, around 3100. That's where you have Nama. So you have
Okay.
three different names for, well, the same name with 1, 2, 3 for some era, for some, in terms of dating.
Right.
And in the Louvre Museum, also, there's another area that's the second floor where we see some tools that span from 200,000 BC to more recent time. But on those, there's no writing. There's no Medunetta. I don't even think that Medunetta existed then, you know?
Yeah.
And all this to say that I heard Moors. I remember Alim Bey debating SETI. And we know the Moors are trying to say, well, there's civilizations elsewhere and stuff like that. And he showed some rocks that are like, maybe 2 million years ago. But from a rock, you will not be able to tell what culture it was, what language they spoke, what they did, Maybe that rock was there when humans were not even on the planet. So there's so much we can find. But like Denzel said in Training Day, it's not what you know, it's what you can prove.
Right.
Yes, some people will tell you, oh, but it's not only Kemet, you guys killing me. They found a rock that's 3 million years old in Iraq. Okay, but what do you get out of this rock that's 3 million years old?
Yeah.
But when it comes to the records in Kemet, whether it's furniture, whether it's jewelry, in the jewelry section in the Louvre Museum, on rings, you have Medunetcha.
Yeah.
On coffins, you have Medunetcha outside the coffin, inside the coffin.
Well,
on pillars, you have Medunetcha. You have it all over, and they tell us about the culture.
Well, according to Anthony Browder, he said that they have only dug up 10% of the ancient tombs of Egypt and Kemet.
Possible, because at some point, and people can look it up and search online, and look for the reliable websites. But they have did some scanning. I think they went with
Yeah.
planes, sorry, and
Yeah.
they used some tools to scan within the ground, and they could tell that there are so much things under the ground, notably temples, maybe pyramids. We don't know how big they
Right.
are,
Right.
but I think it's possible now. The figures, some people might argue that if it's 10% or 50%, but there is most likely, definitely so much, and very regularly we hear, oh, they found a new small temple or a new coffin, and sometimes they are old, sometimes they are more recent, late period, but many times they are old. And I think that Egypt, since Egypt, for those who don't know, the number one source of income of the country called Egypt, or Masr, if I pronounce it correctly in Arabic, um, Misra or Masr, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but that's tourism. That's the
Right.
number one source of income.
I
So
also
if they
there's
know,
also some.
I just want to finish with that, brother. If they know that there's so much on the ground, they will not just dig it all at once. They will go periodically, and I will do the same thing. That's their hustle. But yes, go ahead,
Yeah.
brother.
Well, they said that there's a lot of animosity the Egyptians have towards the Americans that come there, and it's not a it's a business relationship, as you say, but those people are of Arab Muslim descent that are in Egypt, and that they don't have the same reverence or sensitivities to the ancient ruins, because according to some of the people, some of the ruins they show like clothes hangers, and people were using them for bathroom. I mean modern time, that some of those ruins have been destroyed by modern man using them for everyday purposes, not reverencing or respecting the fact that this is ancient history. And he said that's because the Muslims don't revere it as much as the Americans. Maybe have you heard that before?
The Muslims don't like representations. That's one of the reasons that many places were carved and stuff like that. They don't really like that. Now you have different kind of Muslims,
Yep.
but on one hand you have those who don't care about the artifacts from Kemet, and others on the other hand, many people, maybe at least half of the Egyptian population, and maybe the majority of the Egyptian population, feel like those remains in Kemet come from their ancestors.
Right.
So it's a bit tricky. You have those who just don't care, and those who are so proud. Uh, the Ministry of Antiquity of Egypt, when you read the articles, they talk about the greatness of our ancestors and so on. But hey, they are masters of the land today. That's what it is.
Yep.
Just like the Australians took over. I mean, the Australians, the Europeans went and took over the Aboriginals in Australia, and just like the Europeans took over the Native Americans, now masters of the land now. Sorry,
Yep.
hold on.
One
I
other thing I
was
was going to add, just going back to the Old Testament, isn't it interesting that no one challenges Judaism and the fact that in their Bible, the Old Testament, they don't recognize that Jesus was this savior that they do in the New Testament. And that's their belief. They don't accept
well
that Jesus.
in the Old Testament. There's no mention of Jesus.
Right.
There might be some prophecy about him, but
Yeah.
he comes in the New Testament. So for the most part, Jewish people, they don't have the same love for Jesus that Christians have.
But why don't people just like they push back on African spirituality, why don't Christians challenge Jews on that state? Because if instead of a Christian debating you, right, it would seem a more logical debate to debate a Jew, wouldn't it?
They wouldn't do that.
But that
With
would be
the
the more
Jewish people,
logical, because they actually
eh,
have an entire religion that doesn't acknowledge the presence of the Savior. Versus, at least we're discussing, African spirituality and the fact that, there was a virgin birth, but it happened during a time or the story of pre Jesus Christ. We're at least acknowledging that there was a story of Asar, Aset, and Heru, even though it was a story. The Jews don't even have a story like that in the Old Testament. So to me, that would seem more of an open target for people to question than it would be for someone talking about African spirituality. I'm not saying it makes logical sense, but if I were going to challenge somebody, I would challenge the one who says there was never a Jesus.
Well, Jews don't necessarily say that, but Jews are established. Jews are yes, a savior. Yes, the Jewish religion is established, even though they are far from having the same amount of adepts as the Christians and the Muslims, but they can pride themselves of having the religion which is at the origin of it all.
Right.
As far as the Abrahamic belief systems are concerned. Well, it came from us. That's debatable. That's debatable, and I'm not really. Well, many people say that, but I don't really like to outright say that because it looks like we need to always attach ourselves to it. There was some influence, but I'd rather we go to the text and we show, okay, this text says that in Kemet, and in the Bible or in whatever Abrahamic text it says that. Okay. I'd rather we do that. For example, people saying that Horus was born on December 25th and so on, and that's yet to be found on the text. So, and many people repeat that. There was a documentary, Zeitgeist, and that was mentioned. And before Zeitgeist, there was this white guy called Jordan Maxwell who also talked about, all those things. And we should be careful about repeating stuff that are not accurate.
I think I've heard one story that the winter solstice and the last 3 days of December, the 21st, 22nd, 23rd, and on the 24th, and then it starts to rise again on the 25th. And that was a time of maybe harvest or maybe something that it was the December 25th had special meaning prior to Christianity, and that everyone acknowledged that as a day of rebirth, I think is what they were saying, December 25th.
Wow.
And everyone attaches rebirth to December 25th. Separate from stories of Jesus or Asar or Set or Horus, but prior to anything that the farmers or the people who their crops, something about December 25th was the day that things start to grow again, and the sun starts to spend more time, and something to that effect. Like it's connected with astrology and the earth bringing forth bountiful crops or something to that effect.
Well, what's for sure is that, but it's usually said, I'm not an astronomer or geologist or whatever scientist that deals with that field, but when it's winter time, you have more night than day, or light or daylight, and if I'm not mistaken, it's from December 25th that you start having more
daylight,
light, exactly, than nighttime. So up to December 24th, I think maybe December 24th is equal. You have as much night than light, and then from December 25th. So possibly for ancient time, it will be a great timing for those who might have thought that the sun died or whatever, because back then they didn't have the technology we had and the understanding that we have. But whatever people argue about Kemet, then it should be on some text. I don't think we will have oral tradition that goes back from all this time period. But December 25th being a special day of harvest and so on in Kemet, I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't know. All I know is that I've read that. I cannot tell you the book right now offhand, but the Egyptian year was 30 days. I'm sorry. If I'm not mistaken, the Egyptian month was 30 days, but what's for sure is that I'm not 100% sure about that. Let's discard that.
Okay.
The year was 360 days. And at the end, you had 5 additional days. So it's even better in the sense that you don't have the trouble of those that system that we have when February at some point it
Leap
goes up to
year.
28, yes, and then it goes to 29. So some people ultimately don't have a birthday like every 2 or 4 years. I can't remember how
Right.
it is. So that was a very great system, that alone. And I think that this I might have read that somewhere. I don't know if I wrote that, but I think that the 24-hour days also it might come from Kemet, but I will
Hmm.
have to double check. But at least for the year, that's what I could say. But then again, whatever people claim regarding Kemet, it has to come from some text.
Yeah.
And we should all take that habit. People say Horus was born December 25th. Let's find out what the text is. And if it's late period, then it means that the indigenous Africans were not using that or dealing with that. And the late period for the younger generation, that's after the indigenous Africans ruled because they were finally conquered in around 600 BC. So first I
When
was
you say
the
the text,
Assyrians.
when you
Come
say the
again?
text, though, when you say the text, do you mean the pyramid text, the
Oh no,
writings?
text, that's all text. That's writing.
Okay,
Writing. So
writing. Okay.
it could be on the stone or wood, on
Okay.
papyrus, but
Okay.
writing. When I say text, that's what I mean. I mean writing.
Writings. Okay.
Indeed. And hold on, I've pulled up that book finally. So I'm typing grave. I hope I'll find. Uh, I really would like to give that quote because that's not the one I was looking for. Hold on, African about possibly the oldest African grave.
Okay.
And of course, even if it will be the oldest African grave, it doesn't mean that the oldest inhabitants of Africa will be in Egypt. But at least that's an actual fact, because
Hmm.
if I'm not mistaken, first you had the Lucy in Kenya, but after
Hmm.
that they found some older remains that are even older than the 2 million or so years. And I think the oldest so far is South Africa. Now I don't know if they found some oldest ones, but so far, the oldest, if I'm not mistaken, the oldest human remains, that's South Africa. Now, when I say humans, it might not be Homo sapiens sapiens,
Right.
but more or less, I think if I say human, I don't think it will be inaccurate.
Gotcha.
But when they find old things like that, it's usually over the news, especially nowadays with all the social networks and all the different news stuff. That's the kind of thing that comes very often from reliable
Yeah.
website.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't look like a hold on, oldest grave. But being meticulous is no fun because for the longest I've been looking for that quote that talks about the oldest grave, and I'm not finding it. But really, I'm not supposed to do that while I'm live streaming. But I will look for
Okay.
it later on. Anyway, I will leave it there.
All right.
But anyway, thank you very much for calling in, brother.
Hey,
It was
thank you.
very nice. There were some messages. I've I just had a quick look. I was peeping, but people were happy about the discussion. Some people were thanking both of us for the discussion, and
Awesome.
I'm happy if they learned something. Thank you very much for calling. That's a good look.
Thank you. Have a good one.
I don't know if I will go live streaming tomorrow. Thank you very much,
All right.
but we get to talk some other time. All right,
All
brother.
right. Take care.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, hotel, brother. So yes, brothers and sisters, it's been 3 hours and 38 minutes. Um, young brothers and sisters, if you have questions, maybe you might be shy about calling in, and I understand. Then take advantage with the chat. When there is no caller, usually I'll go through the chat, but there's so much to learn. But once again, you don't have to believe in Horus, Isis, and Osiris. I would encourage you to focus on the historical person, to focus on what the data allows us to say, to focus on what we have records for. And some people might tell you that the Medunetta has not been deciphered, but it is not true. It is not correct. It is not accurate. That language can be read. I can read it. I cannot read it all because there are about 800 glyphs to know in order to read most texts. Some people say that there are as far as thousands of glyphs. But at least from this book here, from that Egyptologist called Claude Obzomer, he mentions 800 glyphs. So I don't know it all, but I know a little some. That language has been deciphered. It can be read. At the time where it was still being used, when it was still written, the Greeks were over there. Hence why we have the Rosetta Stone. And the Rosetta Stone was found, now, I can't remember if it was 1780 something, but it was like 18th century. However, in about 300 BC, there was some writing with the names of, I think, Ptolemy and maybe Cleopatra. But I made a video about that. So those people who say that it hasn't been deciphered, they will have to explain that. How could they write the names of Greek or Macedonian rulers in 300 BC? And when we look at the glyphs, it spares those names. That kills the argument. But it's fine. It might go over your head. When you will see the artifact or see the video, you will understand. All this to say that this language can be read. I think it's sad, and I lament the fact that some people say that it hasn't been deciphered. They don't say that the Chinese language has not been deciphered. All the languages, they might argue that those languages are still being spoken by a population, that it is still alive or living language. Medunetta is considered a dead language, a language that is no longer spoken by enough people. I understand that. However, we have countless of remains, and the story about those remains, about this culture, happens to be in Medunetta. We also have outside sources, cuneiform writings, and maybe other writings as well. Maybe for more later time, but at least cuneiform writing, we have it from the time period of Akhenaten, which will be 1300 BCE, more or less. 1300 BC, 3,000 years ago. We have countless of records. So, young brothers and sisters, the Medunetta is not so easy because it's not the Roman script, our alphabet, A, B, C, and so on, all to the Z or the Z, depending if you are in England or America. But trust me, it's not that difficult. And you don't have to learn it. It's not an obligation. Don't feel obligated. Don't feel like it's mandatory. Don't feel like it's compulsory. But it helps when you want to take further. When you want to take it further, it really does help. And remember, some PhDs, several of them, have came up with a lexicon. It's on the website called Online, directed by Theophilo Benga. Theophilo Benga is very instrumental because many of you hear about Shekinah Diop. In 1974, there was a UNESCO symposium or conference where Theophilo Benga and Shekinah Diop, Obenga was more like an assistant to Diop, but really Obenga was dealing more with the linguistic. Obenga is a linguist, a world-renowned linguist, and they put in work to argue for the Africanness of ancient Egyptians. So that's who Theophilo Benga is. That date, 1974, speaks volume when it comes to our culture and our history. Theophilo Benga is the director of the Online Review or Journal. And on that journal, I've given the link. Go on my YouTube account, and the address is there, Ma'at Forever. And type in West Africa, the video will come up. I can't remember exactly what the title is. I have many videos now. I have actually hundreds, literally hundreds of videos. But I give you the link to the PDF. It doesn't come from me. It comes from that website, directed by that great PhD called Theophilo Benga. And you have other PhDs, they came up with a lexicon where you can see some words in different African languages, including West African languages. And those words are the same as the Medu word, and they have the same meaning. That alone speaks volume. But when it comes to the Hebrew and the Arabic and the Aramaic and the Phoenician and any other languages spoken in the Near East, the Levant, Mesopotamia, Sumer, Akkad, and so on, Canaan, and so on, can we say that we find African words in different African languages that are the same phonetically and the same in terms of meaning? I don't think so. So that alone speaks volume for all those who say, oh, forget about Kemet, we're from West Africa. But that's fine. To each his own. The future generation will know who was down for the African culture, because the statements are documented. The people who disrespect Africans, the people who talk sideways and talk smack about Africans, or who talk smack about Kemetic people, who disrespect Kemet and Ma'at, it's all documented. So the future generation will bring judgment in terms of opinion, and they will know what was going on. But we can all play a part. Progress can be achieved, and I think that progress is being achieved, because we can be thorough. And the young generation, you are so lucky because you have the youth, so you have more time and you have the tools, you have the technology, the internet being a key element. You can get so many books for free. It's insane. We used to buy the books, we spend so much money buying the books, and you get them for free. So take advantage, learn as much as you can, but focus on what the data allows us to say. The data, that's the records. Anything with writing on it that will either spell out a name or a sentence or a place, that's what helps. If you have records, stone or wood or whatever that is, and there is no writing, well then, unless it's a statue, it has the shape of something, but how can we know for sure what it represents or who it represents? But I don't want to be too long-winded. I will end this so it will be less than 4 hours. But the younger generation, young brothers and sisters, no matter how much knowledge you have and no matter how much you feel like you don't know enough, you definitely have the opportunity to know a lot. And I remember when I was 22 years old, and I started my website, I felt like I didn't know much. But over time, sticking to history, facts, records, well, I feel like I'm quite thorough. I have more to learn. There's a lot that I want to learn, but I held my own. I held my own, and it's thanks to the records available. We are lucky that our ancestors left many records. Most of our people deal with their belief, with their emotions tied to their religious belief. And theology is not history. So, brothers and sisters, stay safe, stay healthy, and I will definitely holler back at you later. Hotep.